Good morning, friends. Ash here, NPMP News. It's July 20th, 2026, and we're still here. We're still monitoring the situation as it is. And over more than half my life, I've been struggling to find out and figure out what is really happening within this matrix that we live in. Why are we here? What's going on? Who is controlling this matrix? Is it a real place? Is it a overlay of the reality that you are currently experiencing? And since before 2001, I've been trying to figure out the answers to these questions, especially since the Matrix movie came out and uh, sort of asked that question, right? And people started to say, "Oh, wait a minute, that sort of makes sense, right?" I've been thinking a lot of my life that what I'm experiencing doesn't apparently seem to be real, right? We saw that Lindsey Graham was, in my view, probably assassinated, I'm assuming, right? They're saying he had an aortic tear and this and that, but he had gone over and met with, we remember, Zelensky in the Skyfall, and had toured the Skyfall facility that was making all the drones that then got bombed, right after he left. So somebody didn't like the fact that he was there, for one, right? I'm assuming Russia, and then or is or are these people just happening to die at very opportune times for certain people, right? Graham, we know, was instrumental in the first Iraq War. He was involved in. He's a war hawk. He was always constantly going over to. He was one of the people that went probably to meet Zelensky the most. And I pinned this article because this is really going to be what comes down to be the crux of the argument. I mean, I remember during the 2020 election when this channel first started, and even on election night, I was going, there's some really weird stuff going on, right? I mean, that's when I started, right? Before election night, a couple of months. I had started in the summer on YouTube, and then before November, I believe, probably, I think I was already thrown off. So I actually have over 1,000 videos if you take the couple of hundred videos that I did on YouTube that got taken down. Did former FBI agent Nikki Flores run a shadow government during the 2020 election? Well, according to the chat logs, that's what they were saying they were doing. They kept certain evidence from the presidential daily brief that had said that China may be meddling and trying to use TikTok to take over people's identities and make ballots and fake driver's licenses with those people's names and use them to vote. Trump says 220 million U.S. voter files were stolen by the People's Republic of China and says the intelligence was deliberately covered up by the deep state actors in the government. So we saw Trump's speech say that. I don't need to replay it. Now reports of that Nikki Flores, a former FBI analyst and senior leader who was charged with the oversight of the election security in 2020, once wrote that she was, quote, basically running a shadow government across the FBI, unquote. This is the context of a report that now alleges that China was behind the manufacture of fake driver's licenses as part of a massive subversive mail-in ballot system. The president mentioned that this shadow government in his remarks, alleging that federal officials hid from his administration intelligence tied to China's election interference operations. While Trump did not specifically mention Flores in his speech, newly declassified FBI messages pegged Flores as the originator of the, quote, shadow government, unquote, term in this context. In his speech, Trump was not being hyperbolic. He drew his phrasing directly from the documents that back up his claims. One email among intelligence analysts admitted that they had, quote, deliberately massaged the presidential daily briefing to withhold information regarding Chinese activities related to the election. Another official inside the FBI wrote that she was running, quote, a shadow government unquote, to keep intelligence about China's election meddling from becoming known, Trump said. So why would they keep that from Trump during the election? Is it because they knew that the rig was in for Biden, right? But my question is why isn't in the 4 years that Trump is in office from 16 to to 20, he doesn't do anything to fix the system. He doesn't do anything to talk about it. He doesn't do anything to say, hey, the gem system is corrupt. We got to get rid of that. He doesn't push to get paper ballots put in. He doesn't go back and find the footage of the vote totals changing on the screen and going down. Right? That was another thing. 2020 chat logs reveal. This is Cam Higby's X.com. Declassified 2020 chat logs reveal FBI agents discussing recalling an intelligence report on China from the presidential briefing. One agent says they are running a shadow government. I'm not going to be able to see this. Where am I? I can sort of see it. I'll try to blow it up a little bit more. This is from September the 28th, 2025. This is a 9:28. Well, obviously, no, it's from earlier, right? It's from 7:48 a.m. chat log time. Good morning, sunshine. Do you have any read aheads for your FITF update? I'll have to leave early to go to the Nakasone prep. Should be fun. Florist Nikki writes, yep, let me shoot you an email. Thanks. Unrelated, do you have a serial for that LLR you mentioned to me last week? RE China, Florist Nikki. It's recalled. Person wrote, okay, talking to PDB briefer. That's why I'm asking. Florist, right. She's also asking if there was a revision on the Russia one. So apparently there's like a Russia also. Oh, was Russia maybe? Remember during the election, they kept saying that there was these server farms in Russia, that Russia was involved. But actually, the evidence was pointing more to China. And what about the fact that somebody was saying that they may have used a military satellite to route votes? In other words, China's not doing it one way. They're printing up a bunch of fake ballots. They're using TikTok to get the identification, which Trump pushed for TikTok to stay open when it should have been closed. She's also asking if there was a revision on the Russia one. There should have been, yes, revision to the source statement, but I haven't seen it. My team's not in yet to confirm. Let me check Sentinel. Okay. I looked in our system but didn't see it, but the system I used to look at your LLRs is not friendly, so it might be there somewhere. Yeah, it doesn't look like they've pushed out a revision yet, for fuck's sake. Okay, the director has the original in his book this AM. Great. So, seriously, we're pushing out a note today to all FOs that all election-related LLRs must come through FITF headquarters. So in other words, anything that's about the election being possibly fucked with by any country doesn't get to go to the president. It has to go through FBI headquarters first, which is who? Comey, right? Which is who? Comey, right? Comey, sworn enemy of the president at the time. Right? I call him like I see him. I told you I don't like Trump or trust him, but you got to also look at, was this part of the plan that these people had where they were going to make it? Yeah, well, how to make it look like Trump was going to win, and then what? You're going to let Biden win with all this cheating, and then what was the point of that? So that you can have one more chance to control the system, or was Trump in on that plan, and then he's going to come in as the savior, right? Like I said, the Trojan horse. We're pushing out a note today to all FOs that all election-related LLRs must come to FITF headquarters. That's good. I'm basically running a shadow government across the FBI at this point. There it is, right at the end of that conversation. I don't know the date of this, obviously, but this is a draft. It says 9/28/25, but obviously this conversation was going on in sometime before November of 2020, right? Assuming like in October of 2020, something like that, where there were rumors, right, that China was doing shit. We heard conversations, and I mean, this is why I posted, almost 1,000 shows with all the links that I was doing early on, where I had all those links for everyone. That's why I did that, because I figured it was going to be when people were going to have to come back and revisit this shit. Because at the time we were saying, why isn't anyone doing anything about this? And then Trump gets in and he doesn't do anything. I mean, sorry. And then Biden gets in, and of course, nobody did anything about it. But you're saying, why didn't Trump do anything about this earlier? Right? You knew that this information was around. You knew that China people were calling China to buy ballots. You knew ballots were sent from Runback to Georgia from Arizona. We know a lot of stuff because we were right there reporting on it as the information was coming out in the press and cataloging those articles. So you were running a shadow government, right? You were keeping certain information from the presidential daily brief. Why? Because then he would have challenged the veracity of the election as he was, and that would have given credence to that argument, right? So that's pinned on the last show's. If something really important comes out, I'll pin it on my Rumble, because what I'm doing is I run a news aggregator as well in the comments. That's how you're going to see what's coming on the next show. Everything I put in the comments section, new articles that I update with. That's how you can see what news is coming out as it's breaking. I'm just doing it in a different way and sort of this is what's called. I don't know what you'd call it really. I'm doing two things at once. I'm a news punditry show, and I'm also a news aggregator where I'm showing you different articles that are coming out, and I'm putting them in the comment section, and those articles will be what I'm covering in the next show. So I'm building the next show right before your eyes as the news comes out, or as the fake news comes out that we're watching, right? We watch news here. That's what we do. We watch and we identify different types of propagandistic uh, things that people use, right? Such as race baiting, such as separation, such as religious and other wars, using the LGBTQ thing. Any way they can segment, right? Think about it. They got you segmented so many different ways: religion, male and female, LGBTQ and trans and all this other crap. How can we ever come together in our humanity when we can't even agree on if there's two if there's two genders, right? How are we going to agree on anything else if we can't even agree on the most basic thing that's been that's been around and since mankind was created, right? There's only been man and woman, pretty much. Although there were hermaphrodites at some point came out. Nobody can figure that part out, right? That's for another a subject of another show. Trump announces U.S. Navy reinstating Iran blockade, announces 20% charge for safe passage. So, by the way, I've been struggling, like many people, probably in large part of the United States, with that smoke that was all over the United States for the 3 days leading up, well, really the 4 days, excuse me, leading up to the World Cup, which Spain took 1-0, right? You saw finally Messi, the master, ran out of gas, the magician. But you saw that poster came out where Laval, the 19-year-old star of Spain, was being bathed by a 19-year-old Messi. So this is all numbers. The new king was just anointed, right? The old king was put out to pasture. That's what they do to the old bull when he's used up he's not so valuable anymore, right? They don't need him anymore. You put him out to pasture, right? When you're used up and you're no good to anybody anymore, they put you out to pasture, right? Excuse me. And that's the end of Messi, right? I mean, he's 39. By the next World Cup, he'll be 42, 43, whatever. I'm glad the World Cup's over. I'm going to be honest. I want these people to go home. We love you. It was great having you here, but I'm done. I'm done hosting these people and having them screaming in my streets late at night and making noise. And actually, a bunch of Spanish people got arrested from Spain last night for in Times Square celebrating late, making a lot of noise. So I don't appreciate that. Go home, go back to your country, and go celebrate. But there was some stuff came out about the ball, right? If you noticed in the semifinal match, there was a new ball, right? It was a new design and everything. Well, did you know that ball has like a segment of it that can open up and you can take it out? There's electronics in that ball, right? It charges. You have to charge that ball up. Did you know that? That ball has electronic parts inside of it. Did the original soccer ball? No. And when they gave the ball to Mbappe, right? The Mbappe, I'm sorry if I'm saying the French player star, he's looking at the ball and it didn't look right to him. He was he was noticing something was different about the ball. Was the ball is it possible that they could have magnetized the ball and can remote control it? Yeah, they could do that. Easy. And there's some shots of where the ball looks like it is being controlled. You could control an entire soccer game like that. You can make anybody shot on goal go in, go out. And there was some really suspect shots and shit that happened that I was like, what the fuck is going on? Right? Like there was a big flurry where it looked like to me that Argentina should have scored in that flurry and they couldn't get the ball in, right? But they had almost no shots on goal the whole match. Then there was a big fight after. ICE fatally shoots a driver in Maine after he tried to mow down agents. Some people are saying that, they can remote control the cars, right? So what if they're just take control of the car and make it appear that that's what's happening, and these guys just go crazy and shoot you, right? Because if you're gonna run me down in a car, I'll shoot you too. The car is a weapon. They still talking about radical plan to dim the sun. You're already dimming it with the smoke. That's dimming the sun. You're messing up my tan lines, bitch. Plus, you're fucking my lungs up with all that smoke. I had to basically close my apartment off from the world for 2 days straight. I had no fresh air, none. You know what that's like after 2 days? You're breathing stale air, running your AC and shit. It's fucking disgusting. All the rooms get all nasty. Your bedroom's disgusting. You can't get fresh air. You start to realize, holy shit, air is important. I need fresh air. I'm living in a polluted city where there's food carts right under my building where I live, and I gotta get the fuck out of here. This place is a shithole. You're making it worse with all these carts, but you're talking about you want a clean, green city. But you're not talking about a clean city, you're talking about a green city. But a green city smells because you decided to put food carts every other block. There's a shawarma cart every other block now. 11,000 food carts just got permitted. And I'm starting to see what's happening is it's overkill, right? How many of these carts can you have per block? You can't do it, right? Eventually, there's too many of them, and it's an oversaturation point. It's like how many African guys can be on Canal Street selling me a fake Rolex? I mean, I don't know, 50? Is that too many? Yeah. But there's 100 guys down there for years doing it. You want to dim the sun? How am I going to grow my fucking food, asshole? Don't fuck with the sun. Leave the sun alone. Why don't you dim yourself? Dim your ideas and stop giving us ideas. Dim that part of yourself so we don't have to hear you anymore. The sun is life. The first thing that everyone ever worshipped in this world was the sun. Right? Of course you want to dim it. You ever hear of a sun cross? That was the first thing people worshipped. It was the sun. Why? Because it was the thing that nourished them. It came up every day and took away the darkness. Allowed them to hunt, allowed them to eventually plant crops. People realize, hey, what is this seed thing? Hey, if I put this in the ground, maybe something will happen. What is this thing? Oh, I can grow a plant. Mayor Zoran Mamdani gives a non-answer on the growing homeless encampment near the Intrepid Museum. I might have to go up and check out the homeless encampment. Do a little street reporting. I never did that yet, right? I don't like going and checking out homeless encampments. Plus, this is in an area that's kind of like hard to get to. It's on the 11th. It's all the way on the West Side Highway, right off there by the Intrepid Museum. It's not that hard to get to. I can take a train and walk over a few blocks or like bike up or whatever. But I heard this encampment is like 10 blocks long now, and it's a real fucking stain. And it's right where the Titanic, sorry, not the Titanic, the Titanic, the Intrepid Museum, sorry, is uh, is right there. And so people who are going into the Intrepid Museum and stuff are seeing it, right? They have to encounter it, or people going using the Javits Center. That's kind of an area where there's not a lot of buildings where people live. It's kind of like just like parking lots and it's open space more. So it's like there's blocks where you know, you can't be a homeless encampment, right? If there's like doorman buildings and blocks where people live, because the people will come out and they get pissed off, and eventually you'll have like a problem, and the cops will come. But he's allowing this one to grow, and now these guys are tapping into the light poles, and getting free electricity and shit. Then the cops came in and shut part of it down when they did that. Rise and Fall of the Westies, that was New York's last Irish gang. That was a very, very scary gang that was around in the 70s. Really the last sort of big Irish gang that existed. And then sort of the Irish control of organized crime was completely turned over, even before that time, to really the mafia, right, that established itself. And then the Jewish mafia really went underground if it existed. You never saw it much after like the end of World War II, right? That sort of ended. And it was more Italian mafia that was dominating the scene from those points forward, right? Lucky Luciano uh, creates the commission where it's all run, through this commission in New York. Each family head has a seat at the table, and all assassinations are carried out by Murder Incorporated, which, by the way, is mostly Jewish killers. And Murder Incorporated, they're not sure how many people they murdered altogether because they were so secretive, and the way that they would do the murders would be in such a way that most of them were never solved because the killer was already long gone out of town by the time the body was discovered, and some of these murders took place before fingerprint identification was, and there was no DNA ID at that time, right? And if it's before like the 30s, there's really no uh, fingerprint identification either, right? Which means it's pretty easy to get away with some stuff back then, right? More easy than it would be now. The Westies gang were just crazy. They were a bunch of coked out, in the end, dudes who were chopping people up and dropping their body parts in the Hudson River and stuff. That's how they ended up getting caught in the end. That one of the leaders was just a fucking madman and went on a killing spree. You can read about it, and if you look up in like Westies gang 1970s Hell's Kitchen, that's why they call it Hell's Kitchen. It's the kitchen, right? That's where that was these guys' territory. And they did work with the mafia at some point, but then, at some point, these guys got too out of control, right? And the mafia didn't like that when you get too crazy. They like people who are low key, right? They don't want to be discovered. New York sees dramatic exodus of U.S. millionaires, causing nearly $11 billion loss in tax revenue. They've made a bunch of movies about the Westies. You can go look up a couple of them. There were some couple decent ones. I used to work at a place where I was going to actually try to interview one of the Westies gang who's doing life in, I think, Sing Sing or one of the upstate prisons, but I didn't end up getting that interview, unfortunately. That would have been an interesting interview. I would have had to go all the way up to the prison, of course, to interview him. And he's known to be a bit of a crazy dude, right? U.S. Treasury sanctions financier tied to Iran's supreme leader targets shadow banking network after Strait of Hormuz attacks. Quote, the so-called supreme leader is hiding in seclusion while his regime crumbles, somebody wrote. That's sort of like propaganda, right? Post Millennial wrote that one. I had that article. But there's a problem with Iran, right? What is it? Well, how do you can't get to these people. He doesn't seem to be able to get to the mullahs. How do you know you're removing them? How do you know they're dead, right? Usually when you have a war, you send troops in, they kill all the other guys' troops or a lot of them, and then eventually you get to the head of the snake and you either chop the head of the snake off, you imprison them or whatever, right? Like Napoleon, they sent him to Malta in the end, right? Or no, Alba. They sent him to some island, right? Instead of killing Napoleon, he killed a lot of people, man. So the millionaires are leaving New York, yeah, because they don't want to be taxed on their pied a terre. I'll just get my pied a terre in Connecticut then, and just I'll be right near New York. That's fine. Or I'll get in New Jersey. I'll get a little house, get a little condo. Why not? I'm rich. I don't care. I'll be right near New York. I can just hop on the PATH train or get in the car and be in New York in like 10, 15 minutes, right? If you're in parts of Jersey, you can be close to New York. Newark's close, so there's a bunch of places that are close to New York. So I don't have to stay in this state. I can go to Connecticut. I can go to Jersey. We got so much rain the other day. They tried to flood us out right after the smoke cleared. And then the smoke, of course, cleared perfectly in time for just perfectly in time for the we had a 150, 175 was our like air quality, which is like toxic, right? You're not even supposed to go out. And then the next day it was 53. Oh, how about that? Cleared that air up so quick, didn't you? Parts of Soho were literally like underwater the other day. It was raining so hard. If it rains more than two inches in an hour, the sewers will back up. They can't take that flow. And once that backs up, it goes in and then, forget it. It goes into the beaches and then you got a problem. You can't go swimming for like several days after that, right? Can't do it. U.S. Treasury sanctions financier tied to Iran's supreme leader. Right. We'll see what happens with that. They're trying to target them. My friend Norm said, "Great show, Ash. You are the king of common sense." Thanks, Norm. I appreciate you. A lot of it is this logical common sense that, like, you can say that doesn't make sense. That's a lie, right? That can't be true. I mean, how are you going to beat Iran like this, right? You're just dropping a bunch of bombs here and there. You're not liquidating any of the mullahs. How are you killing the mullahs? You got special forces in there, maybe? Who knows? Maybe. So Kim Goglin's show came on. She had some interesting things to say. She's like, they're at the end of these people's line. They're the high ups have all been terminated. They're just some other peon takes the place of whoever they take out. So it's like a never ending supply of these losers. When do we get to the end of these people? When there's no more of them, or when they realize that they lost? I don't know. You can check out Kim Goglin's new show. Senator Lindsey Graham's sister Darlene reacts to Trump recommending her to fill. So they want his sister to take the rest. Not only to serve out the rest of his term, but then to run for another full term, which is 6 years. Right? They want to keep that power because Nancy Mace was like, "Hey, maybe I'll run for a seat," and they're like, "No, no, she's gonna step in." His sister. It's an interesting story, right? Lindsey Graham's parents were killed in an automobile. No, sorry, that's not right. He lost his parents both within the same year. I think his mother had like cancer or something, and then his father had a heart attack, like within the same year. So all of a sudden, uh, he's with a younger sister that he ends up adopting later when he becomes an adult. So it's an interesting backstory um, about what shaped his character and drove him. But I never liked Lindsey Graham. He always seemed like that snake in the grass type of guy who would play both sides of a thing, and enrich himself in the process. But when they looked at his bank accounts, he doesn't have nearly the amount of money as some of these other people do, which is interesting. Which means that he's more in it for the game than he is for the cash, right? There's some people who play the game to play the game, and then there's some people who play the game and they're greedy and they just want, they play the game to get rich, right? And to get power and things. And then there's some people that just like to play the game. Right? Lindsey Graham to me is sort of like both a little bit, but he more likes to play the game. And power came as a result because he's playing the biggest game, right? At the highest level with extremely dangerous adversaries, which is the most dangerous game to play, right? Why? Because at some point you're going to anger some of those adversaries and they might want to kill you, right? They might want you dead. The question is, if he was killed, why don't they have a clone of him? If all these people are cloned, or was it just time for him to step out of the picture? I don't know. Secretary Rubio pledges defense of American sovereignty against the International Criminal Court. So you notice that Netanyahu was talking about coming to New York, and then that triggered Mamdani saying, "Hey, I'm looking for ways I can like get arrest Netanyahu, right? Which you can't do. Why? Well, he's a he's from another country, right? He's a diplomat from another country can't be arrested." Right, you ever hear these stories where one of these diplomat comes over, they rape some girl, and then they just walk away, right? Well, because they can. Unfortunately, that's part of the rules these guys set up. And that's happened in New York more than once, I think, with murder as well as other things like sexual assault and other, right? I have to go back. I can remember at least one or two or three cases where it was like some like Middle Eastern kind of country, and that they were. I remember the Saudis used to have these huge coke parties in the '80s that I heard of. You know, they'd rent like a whole floor at the Pierre Hotel or some fancy place like the Plaza. They'd rent out a whole fucking floor, right? So nobody would come up and bother them, and they'd have just barrels of coke. I'm talking barrels of coke, not a little bit. Barrels. That used to happen. Secretary Rubio is talking about the ICC and it has no authority in the United States, he says. Well, if the International Criminal Court has no authority in the United States, well, wouldn't you think that a lot of criminals might come to the United States and hide there? Because the ICC can't touch me there, right? That's a place of refuge now. And there's a lot of criminals in the United States. There's no question. There has been for hundreds of years. Soccer ref dead weeks after being fired from World Cup over sexual assault allegations. So I think my final thought on the World Cup is I think there's something wrong because I was watching a little bit of the closing ceremony in the open. It's the same satanic shit, but it's just on a much larger scale. I mean, they're bringing Tom fucking Cruise out. This guy, I Show Speed. I mean, who are these people? What are you bringing these people out for? What do I want to see them for? Why do I want to hear from Tom Cruise when I'm watching a soccer match? What do I give a shit what he has to say? Why do I want to hear like some washed up like star from like 20 years ago singing, you know, shaking her ass again? That's what you're gonna. I don't want to see this shit. And somebody else said the same. It's a soccer match. And I don't like this the replay shit with the screen and all this other crap. They got to get rid of that altogether. This offsides bullshit. That's also stupid. I don't see why you should you can be offsides. If I can get the ball through all these dudes to my dude on the other end, he should be fucking free. Period. I shouldn't have to line up in some fucking stupid order. It doesn't make any sense. That's the part of soccer I think is stupid. And that's not the only thing that's stupid about it, but that's one of the things that's stupid. It's a bunch of guys running around chasing a fucking ball. But that's what all the sports are. Football, baseball, the same thing. It's a bunch of dudes running around chasing a ball. Tennis, same thing. Golf, sort of same thing. Except you're not chasing the ball, you're hitting it. And then you chase it to the next spot and you hit it again, right? How did these dudes create golf? They just said, hey, let's slap that rock with a stick and see how far I can hit it, right? Two dudes who were really bored one time and drank too much beer out in the field somewhere, right? Hey, let's take that club over there, that stick. Let's see how far I can hit this rock. See if I could hit that guy's house over there, right? GOP senator demands special counsel probe of Dr. Anthony Fauci over COVID-19 origins. I don't know how I got into tennis. I remember watching, I think it was, I watched the Borg McEnroe Wimbledon that was on TV when I was a kid. Where it was the fifth match, the fifth time that Borg won. He beat McEnroe with a insane cross court backhand with crazy topspin on it to dip down, and Mac couldn't handle for his fifth straight Wimbledon. I think that's when I said I gotta have that racket, and I want to be just like Borg, dude. I want to be the man. I want to be the maestro back behind the baseline, showing zero emotion. That was my problem. I had a bad temper, so I was like the opposite of Borg. I was more like McEnroe. I would get pissed off and chuck my racket and throw shit and get mad when I was really young because I couldn't, when I wasn't performing to the level I wanted to. Um, I said they should try Fauci for treason. That's my opinion. When I write anything in the middle between like something that comes out and the link and anything in the middle, that's my thought. That's what I think about it. That's what a pundit does. He tells you what they think about it, right? Here's an opinion piece, New York Post. Hunter Biden's on a shameless media blitz to promote an upcoming doc and attempts to rewrite history. Yeah, he's doing a documentary, right? Are you going to show the part where you're selling who you're selling that artwork to for money? And are you going to show the drugs, all the drugs he did? You're going to show yourself smoking crack with whores and hookers and exotic dancers and shit? You're not going to show that part, right? Okay. Man with firearm was arrested on U.S. Capitol grounds. I don't understand why that keeps happening. Is that just to sort of keep that story? Oh, we're in danger. There's people that want to kill the president out there or something. I don't get it. Why would you even do that? It makes no sense. So I was talking about those detachable cabins, right? I found a video about it. Detachable cabins could parachute passengers to safety. I mean, single engine Cessnas, you can buy ones now that have a parachute in the back, right? I mean, if you're in a single engine plane and that single engine dies, you're dead, unless you can glide into a landing somewhere, which you can sometimes with those single engines. You can glide them and land safely in somewhere, but it's not ideal. If I'm over water in a single engine and the thing goes down, or if I'm over like really high up and the engine dies, I want to have that parachute so I can come down safe. You can't have a parachute that big for a 767 though. You'd have to have like, triple parachute canopy, something like that. And even then it might be too heavy. But not if the cabin comes out, right? The cabin just can eject out the back if there's like a fire when everybody's in their seats, or you can have every seat has a parachute and then it ejects out and then everybody goes up in a parachute and comes down. I don't know. You could do couple different things. That's not ideal, right? You want to have it everybody in the same cabin. Trump says U.S. military will reimpose blockade on Iranian ports. So I don't know what's going on. Trump is going back and forth. We're having talks. Now we're at war again. Now they're scum. Now we're back talking again. And if you're in talks with somebody and you call them scum, it's it's kind of hard to go forward from there. That's a sticking point, right? Well, why? Well, you just call me scum. I mean, how are we going to go forward now? You just insulted my whole country, right? Me and my whole country, or the leadership at least. States are asking for $1 billion in DHS grants. Will be forced to verify voters' U.S. citizenship. Quote, election security is national security, and protecting the nation's critical infrastructure is a top priority. It should be. This should have been pushed right after 2016 so that we can have a fair 2020 election. That should have been first thing on Trump's agenda, but he never did anything about it. How come none of this information came forward until now? Which doesn't make sense, right? If you had this information before, wouldn't you be shouting it from the rooftops if you were Trump? I would have been. Hey, look at these guys. And remember when Trump was saying, I don't even really use the presidential daily brief anymore. I get my own private briefing. Remember that? Okay, well, if you're getting your own private briefing, then they should have also had that information. So either Trump knew that they were hiding the information from him then and continued to use them, which and not let have any punishment, which doesn't make sense. Although he doesn't allegedly, I mean, he does later fire Comey, right? Excuse me, but isn't fire Comey for that fact? He fires Comey for something else, right? So, yeah, these states should have to show that their voter rolls are completely clean, that there's nobody over the age of 100 on their voter rolls, and if there are, on the rare chance that there are a few, that it's verified in person and the person's ID's checked, right? Okay, yes, this woman is actually 112. There's not too many. I don't think there's anybody that's 120. That's just too fucking old. Most people don't get there. Most people don't even get to 110. Most people don't even get to fucking 100. So once you hit 100, you're in a very rare, and especially living in New York, it's very rare that you live that long because it's polluted as fuck with all the noise pollution and other pollution. What somebody should do is walk around certain areas where these food carts are with like some kind of like I don't know what's that pollution measuring devices, and see how much pollution some of these are giving off. Because these guys are just running gas generators all over the place, every fucking block. Can you imagine a city where every other block there's some guy running a gas generator that's belching out smoke and noise, plus food carts that are leaking grease onto your sidewalks that goes into your sewage? Mamdani's New York City homeless encampment with drug trafficking and prostitution is now 12 blocks long. So he started a mini tenderloin. People stop parking their cars over here. People are scared to park. Yeah, you don't want to get involved with those people. If there's a bunch of them there, they could mug you, right? Homeless people, you don't know what they might do. They might stab you with something, right? Like a screwdriver or a knife. Homeless is always the one you got to watch for the most. They sometimes can be very friendly and nice also. I've had many interactions with many different homeless and helped many different homeless over the years, but some of them are violent, right? You got to be careful. Usually they're not if you're giving them money, though, right? If I'm giving you a cigarette or whatever, cigarettes worth more than money sometimes. In some hoods, a cigarette can be worth more than a lot of money, right? In some hoods, in a certain time for a certain person, right? Evidence mounts of non-citizens reaching voter rolls, casting ballots as the DOJ speeds the crackdown. A lot of people did. What do we think China was doing? Plus, remember when people were handing out fake Social Security cards in Times Square? They got fake Social Security. It's easy to fake those. It's the easiest document to fake a Social Security card. Why? Because it's just a piece of paper with a number on it and your name. There's no picture ID on it. There's no they might have introduced holograms into the new ones, but in the older ones there was no holographic. There was no holograms inserted into it. It's easy to forge stuff like that. It's the easiest thing to forge. The easiest of all the documents. Right? A driver's license is much harder. There's multiple holograms in it. It has to be laminated a certain way. Very difficult to do, but not impossible, right? So we know that a lot of non-citizens are voting. That's why it's not election day, it's election week, so that I can insert the amount of votes in that I need to beat you. I need to first know how many votes I need. How many am I short? That's what I know at the end of election day what I need. Oh, I need Pratt's in the lead by 15,000. I need 15,000 ballots in the next week to come in, or 20,000. And it's like all this information that came out all these years ago is now coming out. And they're like, look, they did it, but we were reporting and others were reporting on it at that time, and nobody did anything. Like in Detroit when they covered the viewing room, right, where the counting room was covered up so that the on-site people that were trying to observe from outside the windows couldn't see inside the counting room. That's illegal. And then all of a sudden, a van shows up in the middle of the night with A whole van full of votes for Biden. Trump suggesting the U.S. take over the Strait of Hormuz and get paid for it. They're saying before that that's what Iran was wanting to do, make a toll booth there. You can't do that. You got to let commerce pass through, right? But then again, it is a lot of stuff in their waters right off their country. They should have some say in what happens. Maybe some small amount should be paid to them. I don't know how that works. But then every country where a ship passes by, they're going to say, hey, you know what? You got to pay to pass through my waters, my territorial waters, which end at a certain amount of miles offshore as international waters. But the Strait of Hormuz is a very condensed, packed in area where, a lot of ships are moving to a tight sort of tightening of the strait where it tightens up. Lindsey Graham's sister, Darlene Graham, is going to serve out his term. Today, under the law, it's my duty an honor to name someone to serve in the place of this irresistible man, this irreplaceable man. See how Trump loves the guy? But if you remember when he's running for office, he's bad-mouthing Trump the whole way, right? And if you remember on January 6th, he said, I've had enough. I'm jumping off. I'm not with Trump, right? And then he came back in the fold later. He was Trump's golfing buddy later, right? U.S. Treasury sanctions financier tied to Iran's supreme leader targets shadow banking network after Strait of Hormuz attacks. The so-called supreme leader's hiding. Oh, I think I double posted that. Sorry, guys. Hegseth creates a joint task force with the DOJ to identify and prosecute leakers of sensitive information. Hegseth said the Pentagon's Office of General Counsel will be able to have access to all information, support, and records in the War Department regarding news media leak investigations, and all officers are ordered to prioritize those requests. So you're trying to find people who are leaking out of the Pentagon? Good luck. There's also something interesting was going on with Hegseth where he's ordering certain troops over a certain age to check their testosterone levels out. You want to make sure you're freaking violent enough, manly enough to keep going. And, what are you talking about? What about women who are over 35? Are you going to check if they're near menopause or something? I mean, what are you doing? What? So if I'm over a certain age, I'm not as violent and viral anymore? That's bullshit. The pink elephant in the room. Why the whisper campaign about Lindsey Graham's sex life matters? Well, a lot of people said they thought he was. I think he was. I always thought he was gay. I've seen his type before. And I don't have any problem if he was gay. Some people say, well, he never married because of the sister. Well, come on. She's been an adult for many years. I don't buy it that he never married because, to take care of the sister his whole life. She's married. Right? She has a Nardone. She married some other man, right? That's why she has a hyphenated name. So she obviously didn't didn't do the same thing as you. No, I think Lindsay's probably a closeted gay man. Yeah, for sure. And I don't have any problem with that. Just be whoever the fuck you are. I don't have a problem with it, but don't hide who you are and try to be something else. Furor at the DHS after New Jersey County expands sanctuary policies. Essex County is in the northern portion of the state and includes Newark, and it's adjacent to New York. So that's perfect, right? That way they can get more illegal aliens, sneak them in those areas, and not let ICE get those people out either, right? Excuse me. ICE is having a big problem, especially on Canal Street for some reason, where they just can't swoop in with enough guys to just get these guys definitively once and for all and deport them. And there wouldn't be any more guys to show up because those guys would all be deported. And then the next crew, if they want to show up, is going to realize, shit, if I do this, I'm going to get deported out of the country, and then you can't ever come back. But the real thing is people just need to stop buying this fake bullshit. Judge castigates Trump's IRS lawsuit, refers attorneys for discipline. U.S. District Judge Kathleen Williams, however, said the suit was brought for an improper purpose. to secure funding for a project not approved by Congress. That's interesting. Anti-ICE agitators descend on Susan Collins' office, strike journalists with skateboard after ICE-involved shooting in Maine. Footage from the Maine Wire also showed an anti-ICE agitator strike a press member with a skateboard. That can hurt. There was just a fight with a kid and a skateboard and some Asian dude in the city. The Asian guy got the crap kicked out of him by some skateboard kid. I give the Asian guy some credit. He got out the car and went for it, but damn, I mean, if you're 5'4", dude, you better have some skills. You better be Jackie fucking Chan if you're gonna jump out your car and try to beat some kid who's like half your age up and who has a skateboard as a weapon that he could use against you. That's not good odds for you, especially being 5'4" and in your 40s or 50s, he looked like. And he got his ass kicked, choked out, and almost, he's lucky that the kid let him go when he did, because, if some person's choking you and they don't get a little too overzealous about it and they don't realize you're out, they could kill you. It's not that you don't have to choke someone that long to do it. I don't know why they're going to Susan Collins' office like it's her problem. Why don't you tell these ICE, why don't you tell these people who are being pulled over by ICE, don't try to run them over with your car if you expect to, like, live, right? Just like you'd say, hey, don't pull a weapon on a cop, right? If you do, you might get shot. Not a good idea, right? If ICE is coming for you, they're going to get you, then you got to let them take you. You could try to run. Migrant shot and killed by ICE in Maine was named as Joan Sebastian Guerrero, 26 years old. But these aren't your neighbors. They're trying to make it out like that ICE is coming in and they're hunting your neighbors. No, these aren't your neighbors. These are illegal aliens that are living in your neighborhood, that are trying to be your neighbor, but that shouldn't be your neighbor. That's the point. They shouldn't be here. And every crime one of them does to a person here is something that should have never happened. Lindsey Graham's unbreakable bond with baby sister he adopted and the promise that meant he never married. That's the story they're putting on the Daily Mail. Former Iranian President Ahmadinejad is put under house arrest by regime over secret dealings with Israel and plan to install him as new leader. So he's not dead. I thought they killed this guy. I'm confused. Now he's under arrest. Sonny Hostin boasted to cops about being on The View after a 24-year-old son's arrested for trespassing on the Metro North tracks. Was he going into the tunnel? That's the entrance to the tunnels over there where he was, right? He might have been trying to get into the tunnels. Why is the question. Are you trying to get down to the lower levels? Is there something going on down there? Maybe. I'm assuming there is, right? There's people down there. There's more people down there. It's a super dangerous place to go, right? The cop is saying, I got to give you a ticket. You could get killed over here. It's very dangerous. Why are you over here? There's no reason for you to be. And then, of course, the mother comes over in 10 minutes. I'm a former federal prosecutor, she keeps telling the cop. And this cop's being totally chill about it. He could have been way more of an asshole. He must have known who she was. He's like, I'm really sorry. I appreciate you being, but I got to give you a summons. I got it because this is dangerous. You're on the tracks. She's like, why are you ruining the kid's career? It's like, how is he ruining the kid's career? Your son is on the Amtrak tracks illegally. That's trespassing. Okay. And then the question really is, why is he over there? What are you doing? He's not bombing the tracks with like his tag. He doesn't have any spray cans and shit. So he's not doing he doesn't have any markers and shit. He's not tagging up. All right, well, what reason would you have to be over here? Well, you're going into the tunnels, right? Are there something going on in the tunnels underneath the city? Maybe. Was he going into the tunnels? But I love how the mother's flaunting, I'm a former federal prosecutor. So fucking what? Who cares? Your kid's fucking just got caught trespassing on Amtrak private property. Why is he here? And you're acting like The cop is the one that did something wrong. You're lucky that the kid isn't being hauled down to the station. Migrant who fled Ireland after murder of New York mom Jamie Carney was arrested in Jordan. So this woman was pretty stupid, right? She met this guy at like an anti-whatever protest. He's a Muslim dude. She lets him into her home, and what does he end up doing? He beats her to death with some blunt object and killed her. That's what she got for letting a migrant into her home. FBI enters Senator Lindsey Graham's Capitol Hill home again. This is the other problem, right? Is that the FBI was going to this guy's house twice. Why? Well, what's going on? Did he break some laws? Maybe. What does his personal records look like? I'd like to know. Because he's traveling all over the world talking to all kinds of fucked up people. For years he's been doing that. You telling me he doesn't have a couple of gold bars in a safety deposit box somewhere? I find that hard to believe. He strikes me as the type of dude that wouldn't keep his money all in cash. That's the dumb way to do it. When you saw, what's his name, Menendez get caught, that's the way a big player holds his money, in 100-ounce gold bars. That's the big player. Remember they found that Chinese official? He wasn't even that high up the ladder. That guy's whole house was just filled with silver and gold bars, right? That's all the guy had. Huge amounts. So if a low-level Chinese official can amass that much over time with graft, imagine what a high-up dude could do. Excuse me, guys. That smoke did a real number on my lungs the last few days. It's taken a couple days to clear out, but starting to feel better. Why did the FBI raid Lindsey Graham's house more than one time? U.S. military unleashes another round of attacks on Iran for the third consecutive night. That was actually, now it's 5 nights, 6. I think it's a week straight they hit him. We hit him with some drones. We hit him with all kinds of stuff. The movie I was thinking of where Adam Sandler plays the devil's son is called Little Nicky. Sorry about that. It wasn't the other movie, but it was. The question still remains that even people at the Taylor Swift wedding were like, is this a joke? Like, why the fuck is Adam Sandler like officiating this thing? I don't get it. She doesn't have some special relationship with him, really. She claims that she does. I actually came face to face with Adam Sandler once at the Reebok Club years ago. I was working out there. A friend of mine had a guest pass, and she let me come. And I was in the on like the elliptical machine. I just finished. I got down, and I knew he was there because I was watching over the basketball court where I was working out, watching these guys play some of the worst basketball I've ever seen. Like more bricks laid in that freaking court than I've ever seen. And then him and the short guy is from Saturday Night Live came out together, and I said, "Oh, it's these guys. They like the worst basketball players. They could probably beat me though, but they were missing shots like crazy." Mexico announces restored access for its sugar to U.S. markets. That's interesting because they had banned, the FanJules had their sugar banned from U.S. markets for quite some time. So you can go check out Little Nicky if you want, or he plays like the devil's kid or whatever. And they try to make it like the devil's cool or whatever. Right? Ukraine Prime Minister resigns as Zelensky shifts political strategy. So who's controlling Ukraine? Is it still Zelensky? I mean, after all this time, I can't understand how this thing is still going on. What's the purpose of it? Is it just to suck money out of all these countries to where? And where's it all going? Into this country? And now they're bombing Kyiv like it's going out of style. I just think he's just keep hitting Kyiv. They're just going to keep hitting Kyiv until they give up, right? That's all he can do. Maybe they're just going to level that whole place. Because remember, it's built on top of other dead bodies already, right? The Babi Yar massacre. 30,000 Jews killed, right? I mean, why would you build a city on top of that anyway? Can you imagine the fucking vibe there? Would you want to go to Kyiv? I wouldn't. Want to go to a boneyard? The same thing in France. I mean, look what France is built on top of dead bones. There's all those bones in the catacombs. Why would you want to live in a place like that? You know what the energy must be like? Holy cow. That's all needs to get cleaned out, man. Those catacombs in France go on forever. Want to go get lost in a scary fucking place? Go down there, man. Some people go in there and they never come back out. It's the same thing in Ukraine. There's got these tunnel systems that are so vast in them that are naturally made, and some are made from man-made, but also, the catacombs in France are not natural. They're man-made, right? They go on very, very far. And you got to wonder who built that and for what was the real reason. Colombia's Petro blocks military inauguration for successor. They have all that salt too, right? In Ukraine, that's another big thing. They got the salt caves that go on for hundreds of miles, right? They have massive cave systems in Ukraine that we already looked into and cataloged some of them. Fans think MLB Home Run Derby was rigged after spotting bizarre Netflix gaffe. I think many sports are fixed. Yes, and one of the guys saying they're juicing the balls again. And they used to juice the balls before. Or sometimes just the players and the ball are juiced, like back when Canseco and, McGuire's hitting like 68 home runs, right? Whatever, 70 home runs. Are you sure? Well, yeah, but I'm juiced up to the max on steroids and the ball's juiced on top of it. So, yeah, that's why it's going 800 feet. That's why it's going 497, like, 520-foot homers. Some people have hit some massively big homers, like who were just big, strong hitters, like Babe Ruth. And, there were times when the ball was also deadened, like where the ball was like uh, deadened so that you couldn't, or in some of the old stadiums in New York too, like, forgot which one. There was one stadium, I think, where center, like left center, was like 480 feet or something, like so long nobody could hit a home run out there. And the ball was deadened, so it wasn't like a lively ball. So I think that they keep fucking with the balls of these sports. The same thing with tennis. It's not the original ball. They've changed the original ball 10 different times. Used to be faster balls, now, slower ball for Wimbledon, or they can make a faster ball. They can make the court faster or slower. If it's hard court, they can make different kinds of hard court. They can make it slower, faster. They can make clay. They can make carpet courts. I've played on carpet. That's really the slowest. It's even slower than clay. They don't play any real big tournaments on carpet, though. Too much. I mean, I'm talking literal carpet. I think many of the sports are fixed, and one of my listeners said it's not that the big things are fixed; it's littler stuff. I get it. I totally get it now, and that's why Kalshi and these things came out, where you can bet on smaller outcomes, government outcomes, or even like say, like what I think what one of my listeners was talking about was, yeah, you can bet on if it's going to be over under a certain point amount. You can bet on if there's going to be a certain amount of field goal. You can bet on almost anything now, and they've got it down to that kind of minutia. And if you're clever and you know tennis and you know certain sports pretty well, you can make some money. I could have made a lot of money if was a betting person. I called a bunch of them. I said I felt like it had to be Spain versus uh, Messi in the end, right? Because it just felt like that. And even though England was good with the Three Lions, that last pass that Messi made was so pinpoint, right? That pass for the header in between two of the English guys. I mean, how could you have hit it any more perfect? It went right over that dude's hair, literally into the guy's head for the header win. Right? You can't kick a pass, but if you want to talk about who is a pinpoint passer, Messi's a pinpoint passer too. He can do it all. At 39, he can't run the whole field anymore on you and score that much, but he can do other stuff to hurt you. But it just seemed like Spain was relentless in that game. They almost couldn't. Argentina couldn't get a shot off. And then, of course, people were saying, "Oh, did you see the Argentina flag?" At one point was shown, and it didn't have the sun on it like it had before. It had the Masonic, the G and the Masonic thing, right? The sign of the Masons. Yeah, the whole thing's controlled. It's a satanic event. I mean, you can see that all the shows they're doing with it. Shakira came out and all that shit. Same thing with the Super Bowl. It's all they've taken over all these sports. It sort of is similar to the Romans, right? With all the carnivals they'd have and the different, the shows, right? They'd have the games. You could see men killing other men, men killing animals, all kinds of shit. They could even flood the whole thing and put boats in there. They did all kinds of crazy stuff. They have people killing each other from different boats inside there. Right? They throw some guy in there with a man-eating lion and let the lion kill the guy. Right? Let everybody watch it. We're not too far away from that with like UFC stuff. That's pretty much blood sport. I mean, right? It's guys with very small gloves on that. That's why when you get punched with a very small glove, that hurts. You're gonna get your face busted up. I mean, home run derby is not that, they're not throwing super hard pitches like 95 miles an hour, right? They just got a guy who's throwing you very soft, like 60-mile-an-hour pitches, 50 miles an hour, 40, and letting some huge steroid guy crack the shit out of it with probably a juiced bat. Yeah, the ball's gonna fucking fly. You just changed the bats too, and nobody said anything about it, right? Isn't that weird? You just changed the bat in the middle of the MLB season, made it and made it the bat more easy to hit, right? The ball with, and nobody said anything. But not every player's using that bat, which I don't understand. It's like more of a flattish bat, right? Like more like a cricket bat. It's more like a hybrid between a round bat and a cricket bat. Think about if they put those two together, what you'd have. You'd have a still round bat, but a little less perfectly round, so that the ball, there's more surface space that can hit the ball when you're hitting it, right? Which is what you want. Here's my show from 5 years ago that was entitled, Why Did the Election Assistance Commission, the EAC, hire Jessica Bowers? Remember that show? If you've been watching me that long, that's pretty good. I gotta say, some people, I don't know if anybody's been watching me that long. That show is from 5+ years ago, where we were asking that question, right? When the EAC had only a few employees, why would you hire Jessica Bowers right before the 2020 election? Well, now you know why. Because we wanted to put the new Dominion voting system machines in all over the place, especially in places like Pennsylvania, where she was one of the people that I think she went there and met Catherine Bookvar, was it? Or the person who was in charge was, I think that Bowers, before she leaves Dominion, was one of the people that was sent to show the Dominion computers to people like Catherine Bookvar in Pennsylvania, who then implement those systems before the 2020 election, the newer machines, right? The ones that could print their own test decks out and had all kinds of vulnerabilities inside, right? Where admin mode was easily, all you had to do was pop the machine open and you're in admin mode, stuff like that. That show's 5 years old. So I was asking about, and then the reason I'm talking about that is because Trump just got rid of the people in the Election Assistance Commission, which is what he should have done right after 2016 when he got in office and said, and when he saw in 2019 that somebody from Dominion was being hired by the EAC, he should have stepped in then and said that can't happen, right? But he allowed that to happen. And he allowed the 2020 election to go on knowing it was going to be rigged, I'm assuming. New York is expected to sign a statewide moratorium on data centers. We did sign it. It's the first in the United States. While the moratorium is in effect, the state will create a regulatory framework for assessing how the facilities impact the environment. So this is only for 1 year. And you saw Trump's response was he's all for the data centers, right? He's all for it, which means that the data centers are bad. So if the data centers are bad for us, and Trump's a person of the people that's here to save us, why wouldn't he be against the data centers? Why wouldn't he be warning us, hey, the data, and what else does the data centers do? Okay, there's a multiple reasons for this. Think about it. It's a land grab, one, right? These people aren't interested in any land that's under like 50 acres, really. They need pieces of land that are large. Some of the landowners, that have been approached are landowners that have multiple 100-acre pieces of land or even 1,000+ acres. And they want to buy their whole thing, right? They're approached, they want to buy your whole, and they'll pay you some exorbitant amount of money, like $400 an acre or more. Most people would jump at that, right? Especially if you're like a struggling farm. Let's say you're on 500 acres and a guy comes along and he works for Palantir or whatever, some big conglomerate. And he says, "Hey, I'll give you $58 million for that 500 acres. Will you take it?" And you're like, "Fuck yeah, dude. Are you kidding me? I'm fucking struggling here. I don't give a fuck what you do with it." Okay, now times that out by hundreds of these data centers that require what? Huge amount of what? Water. Well, if I'm in a rural area where, say, most of the people have dug wells and rely on aquifers to water their crops and to have water for their homes, and I come in and I start sucking huge amounts of water out of that aquifer, I'm going to make it so that everyone else's water is gone. That's part of it, right? I'm taking up a lot of land and I'm sucking the water dry so the other people around me have to leave. And where do they have to go? Well, they have to either sell their land for less money because there's no water on it anymore. The aquifers are dry and it's near a data center, which means no one's going to want that land. It's going to be worth less. Maybe the data center can buy it though, right? And they'll just buy it up for nothing, right? Do a third party or whatever, make another LLC. They can do it. Saturday in the park, there was a naked man snatched a child, an angry tourist, no cops. So this guy then, 15 minutes later, I guess another call came in. He tried to do something else. There was just another naked guy in New York, so that's two naked guys. I'm just noticing patterns. It's two naked dudes. I don't know how you wake up like one day and like you're just in New York and you're so high out of your mind you decide, hey, I'm gonna just get naked, man. Let's walk around New York and see what happens. Apparently, you can walk around for quite some time before somebody will do something about it. Well, nobody wants to get involved with a guy who's naked. Why? Because I gotta touch a guy who's naked. I don't want to deal with a guy that's naked. Nobody does, right? Especially if he's trying to grab my kid. Then it's all bets are off. Moment U.S. blows up Iranian naval base using kamikaze drone boats. That's what we should have. Just have 1 million of those with a small C4 charge. It's beautiful. Right? Put some nitroglycerin in that puppy. Something, right? That blows big. Have that thing strapped with like 10 sticks of dynamite, some nitroglycerin, some C4, and just sail that puppy right into their shit. Right? That'll blow everything sky fucking high. It's not that sophisticated, but it's it's effective. It doesn't always have to be sophisticated to be effective, right? I mean, who is the person that figured out, hey, I can train a pigeon to and tie a little thing to its leg, and I could have communications over a vast network. Who thought of that idea? That's brilliant. Vagrants wire New York City's growing intrepid museum homeless camp with electricity. Forcing cops to step in. Oh, they only step in if you're taking illegal electricity from the city. Otherwise, it's fine. Right? So you only stepped in because they were getting illegal electricity, not because they're just camped out in the street taking a shit and piss everywhere and selling drugs and whatever, doing drugs in public. No, that's fine, right? It's not the cops' fault. It's Mamdani's fault. He's hamstrung the cops and said, we would rather send out these units that can help and reach out to the homeless. But that doesn't help to remove the homeless. You got to sometimes remove the homeless. You can't always just reach out to them. You sometimes have to deal with them quite harshly. If you don't, they'll take over an area like this. And they'll think they could live there the whole summer like that, right? And it's not going to get cold till way after September. They could be living there for months. Manhattan luxury real estate market plummets after Mamdani's pied-à-terre tax. Yeah, you just killed the real estate market. Forget nobody's going to come over here and buy a pied-à-terre. They'll just buy it, and like I said, they'll buy it in a surrounding tri-state area. There's plenty of places I can go that are very close to New York. I can be in New York within 45 minutes, right? I don't need to buy in the state. I can buy in Connecticut. I can buy in Jersey. even buying parts of Pennsylvania that aren't too far away. Trump says no one should be able to charge a fee for the Strait of Hormuz. Okay. I wrote, Trump seems to have no idea how to win the war, though. If winning involves removing the mullahs in power, there's no way to do that by just bombing certain targets, right? You can't just bomb your way out and then at the end say, oh, yeah, we got the building where all the mullahs are. They're all dead. We confirmed it. Well, that you're going to have to do it. We need to see the bodies. That's why back in the day, they used to cut the head off of the guy, the king dude, and show it to his troops. Here, I just killed your dude. Here he is. You guy's dead. Here's his head. I just chucked it down the hill to you guys to confirm it's your boy. It's over. And that would usually be the end of it. Right? The troops would either be allowed to flee, go away, or you'd be taken as prisoner and enslaved along with your families, depending on how nasty the ruler was, right? If it was England, you might be allowed to live and fight another day. Maybe. If it was Genghis Khan, probably not. He's probably just going to kill you all down to the last. Maybe let the women and children live, but then your whole society crumbles because I killed all the men, right? If I kill all the men in a town, that town dies in a couple of years. Why? Because nobody could reproduce. There's nobody to take the place of the elders when they get too old to tend the crops and do what they have to do, right? Someone has to take the place of the workers that get too old in any society. If those people don't come, or if say a war comes and most of the young men get killed in that war, it fucking fucks up the whole society, right? Gianni Infantino reported to the IOC over Donald Trump ties at World Cup. There's something dirty about this because Trump has to stand out there for the ceremony. He wants to be there. He wants to give the medals out and all this shit. I don't get it. Manhattan luxury real estate market plummets after Mamdani pied-à-terre attacks. I think I double posted that. Remember when the ball was given to Donald Trump from, what's his name? The Russian leader. Remember when Trump is having that meeting with Putin and Putin gives him the ball? He said, the ball's in your court, Mr. President. And that was the new FIFA ball, right? And then the FIFA ended up being in the United States and all this shit. Well, what was the point of that? There was supposed to be information inside the ball that was supposed to get all these people, and we never saw it. Right? Was that the Epstein stuff that we basically never saw? So I had seen Benjamin Fulford's website was actually gone off the web for like a day, and then it reappeared after like a day or two. That was odd. Maybe he didn't pay his monthly bill. I don't know. Trump reverses plan to charge 20% fee in the Strait of Hormuz. You can't charge a fee for it. Why does he keep going back? It doesn't make sense, right? Trump warns the U.S. will knock out Iran's power plant and bridges next week unless the regime makes a deal. How will he remove? Sorry, I wrote removes. How will he remove the religious clerics from power? You can't do it just with bombs, right? Iran vows to keep the Hormuz Strait closed until the end of America's evils. Threatens to block more seaways as Trump reimposes blockade. So now Trump's saying he's blockading it. They're saying it doesn't make any sense. Guys, I'm going to take a quick break. It's about an hour and 20 minutes in, so that's about the right time. I'm trying to go faster. I'll try not to have another 3-hour show. It's extremely tiring trying to follow the events that these people are trying to put forward to keep us from ascending, to keep us from reaching our full potential as human beings. But we're still going to do it. We're still changing and reaching our potential even without these people. Even, with these people, I mean, trying to stop us every step of the way. I appreciate you listening to my show. My name is Ash. This is my news punditry show that I renamed NPNP News. It's nonprofit news pundit. I don't make profit from this show. I don't make any money. I don't charge you in any way for any of the information. All the shows are free to use, copyright free. You can use any clips from any shows you want. Feel free. I'm doing pretty well here in New York. The weather's much nicer now. All the soccer fanatics have left or are leaving, and the sun is shining bright. The smoke is gone. The air is clear for now. What's going to happen though? Why are these storms all of a sudden? I mean, these fires are popping up, and Like 80 fires just pop up overnight. Is that someone using the do weapon again? We got these people to turn off CERN, but they're still using the other stuff. So I hope you're doing well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space, trying to really work on yourself and laying down all this stuff that's ego stuff and dealing with all your karma and trying to lay that down and trying to go forward. It's very hard, right? I've been feeling a lot better. I've been having a lot of physical pain and issues lately. Part of our bodies are changing. It's been a very difficult time. Getting older hurts. It's painful, unfortunately. I hope you're trying to stay within yourself and also take care of yourself. Sleeping enough is important. Keeping yourself shielded, grounded. A lot of people are getting sick and dying. I just had a close friend of mine lose her mom, who was 102 years old. Amazing, amazing human being. Imagine living for 102 years. Imagine the things that that person's seen, the wars and the calamities and the way forward. That should have been such a different world, right? We should have be living in such a different world. We should be living in the Jetsons right now. We should be. And it's unfortunate that there's powers in place and in control that don't want that to happen, that don't want humanity to flourish, that want to see humanity controlled and want to see humanity numbers controlled and their minds controlled and all this shit. And we're just not going to have it anymore. So I hope you're well, working out, stretching, staying in your center. I'm going to go get this coffee. Uh, and you can do some sit ups, push ups, and burpees, and I'll be right back. Thanks, friends. Okay, I'm back. Thanks, friends. I appreciate that. Appreciate that break. Iran's vowing to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed until all of America's evils ends. But nobody's talking about the gays of Hormuz. Sorry, I just had to add that in. Apologies. What about them, right? Here's an opinion piece. Jihadi Hamas monsters have always blocked aid sent to Gaza. Now the useless UN has finally admitted it. Well, they weren't just blocking the aid, right? They were stealing some of the food and then they were trying to sell it local on the street for like exorbitant and price gouging, right? Yeah, you want these lentils and these rice and shit? Yeah, it's $50 or whatever the local currency. It's triple what it used to cost, right? It's a huge amount of money that you don't have. Well, why are you doing that to us? You're our people. Well, we're taking advantage of the situation. That's why. It's called price gouging. It's just like in the summer when you start to use your car more and travel with your family and shit, they raise the price of gas up every summer to its highest price of the year, usually. And then when summer's over, it automatically, somehow, it just miraculously drops a little bit, right? Isn't that funny? It's called price gouging. It should be illegal. And why does the gas cost more in the summer than it costs in the winter? You're pumping the same amount of gas. You can pump the same amount of oil all year long if you want to, right? You can control the amount that comes out, right? So why should it fluctuate at all? It shouldn't, not huge amounts. It doesn't fluctuate in Saudi Arabia like that, I'll tell you that for sure. They're paying almost nothing for gas, right? Places like that. You think they're paying $5 a gallon in Saudi Arabia for gas? I doubt it, right? So we allow certain industries to price gouge us over and over and over, and we don't do anything about it. If you stop using your car and said, fuck you, I'm not going to use my car all summer because of you. I'll travel on the train just to avoid using gas. Fuck you. I'll make you hurt. Since you're making me hurt, I'm going to make you hurt. And you can't really do that, right? A lot of your produce comes in with trucks that require diesel fuel or regular fuel. Trump throws new DHS chief Mark Wayne Mullen under the bus after ICE bowed to Democrats. Yeah, they're saying they're not going to do any more vehicle stops, which is ridiculous. They might have to stop a vehicle if you're in it. The question is somebody taking control of the cars and like making them try to run over the agents so they shoot these people? Or is every single ICE person just so scared that they're getting caught by ICE that they turn into some kind of lunatic that decides they can just run and get away and run over cops and do whatever they can and nothing's going to happen to them? Woke fury at New York City's top public high school for only admitting 3 black students in the most recent academic year. Um, so I don't know if people on the top schools in New York have historically been Stuyvesant, the hardest to get into. The next hardest would be Bronx Science up in the Bronx, which my sister got into years ago, and only went for like a semester, I think. And then the next was like Brooklyn Technical High School, which was Brooklyn Tech, right, which was more like an engineering type of background school, right, technical stuff. And there were other specialized schools, mm, but those were the top three that you had to take a test to get into. I didn't get into any of those. I didn't test high enough, and most kids don't. It's the hardest school to get into is Stuyvesant. So the fact that only 3 kids got in who are African American, I'm not that surprised. The majority of the kids that get into that school are Asian. Why? Because they work harder than everybody else. It's just that fucking simple. It's not like their IQ is that how much higher than any other race of people's IQ. They just work hard. When I went back to school, I was 38 years old, or 37, I think. Okay. That was 20 years ago. And it doesn't seem like that much time has gone by, but it has. And um, I noticed something right away when I would go up to the library to do certain work and or research something or whatever. I was like use it to study up there. It was quiet. That the Every time I go up to the library, it was filled with Asian kids and Indian and Pakistani kids mostly, and some other groups, but that was the majority. Was all always those groups are always there. They lived up there. They're like, we got this whole library of information for free. I can stay up here as long as I want. Hell yeah, I'm gonna take advantage of that and read as many books as I can. Look at as many microfilms as I can. So you got to test to get into those schools. And if you don't work hard and study hard, you won't get there. A lot of white kids never got into Stuyvesant, so I don't get why they're upset. It's this: if you work hard, and you're a black kid, you should get in. You got to score high enough, though. I don't know what these kids' scores were, right? How many black kids? What do they score at? I don't know. Is the argument that there are African American students scoring high enough, but they're being excluded? I don't know. That could be. I don't know how that works. But historically, there hasn't been a lot of African American or kids or people of color in those schools because you have to test to get in, and most of those groups just didn't test high enough to get in. That's just the reality of it. You can study for those tests, though. They give you study guides to do it. That's what I never understood. It's like, I just didn't give a shit enough to study for. I didn't want to go to those schools. I didn't particularly care. Andy Burnham to become British Premier with overwhelming party backing. Is this another traitor I wrote? It's starting to look like it's another traitor, right? To me. He's somebody from the labor side, apparently. He's been in the government a long time. He's just part of the problem. Another guy that's part of the problem. We need some new blood. I thought Farage was going to step up and take that role and be the one to clear it out, but he's not. He left his other post, though, so I'm not sure. Is he going to run for PM next time? I'm not sure. My guess is that this guy's another traitor, but we'll see, right? Your actions speak louder than your words. Is he going to start deporting Muslims by the truckload? I doubt it. Who is going to be the first country that really starts doing that? Then you'll see other countries follow if there is what they do is effective. It's going to be some country like Germany that's starting to come down very hard on the Muslims who are protesting there, right? And rightly so. And those German cops are no joke. They're big dudes, man. They don't hire small, short guys for that job. They're 6'2", 6'5". These guys are huge. Monsters. And when they grab you your whole face, right? They grab you in like an arm lock, and the other arm is like around your face. Their hand goes over your whole face, right? So you can't scream and speak. Guys don't play games over there. So Trump gave that speech on Thursday. He's alleged that there is illegal things went on in 2020, that there were the Chinese, and there is evidence of it, right? I mean, there's no question. This I can go back 5 years and find all kinds of different shows where I'm showing, oh, look, the numbers are going down right on the screen. Look at that. Wait a minute, Trump's numbers went backwards. Yeah, because you're beaming the information to the press through a mechanism that has been compromised. Right? That's also part of it. People were leaving in the counting centers, one of the computers or something turned on to an internet, it's all over. The whole thing is, the whole center is now compromised. We find that happening over and over again. We found ballots disappearing. We found ballots being sent from one state to another. We found Chinese printing up ballots. People negotiating with Chinese printers on how much would it cost to get this amount of these ballots. We found ballots coming from New York to Pennsylvania illegally, right? They were being dropped off. We found the UPS driver stepped forward as a whistleblower. So we found a lot of instances where it looked like there was something illegal going on, right? That a whole truckload of ballots got dropped off at a location in Pennsylvania that shouldn't have been dropped off there from another state, which is illegal. We signed Runbeck sending Runbeck sent ballots from Georgia to Texas. I mean, from Arizona to Georgia. Remember? And then we saw ballots disappearing in Georgia. Some of these shredding trucks showed up. Remember? Illegal alien trucker who killed 3 people gets a soft sentence in a Democratic state. 5 years after killing, he only got 5 years, and this guy killed 3 different people. That's 3 different charges of vehicular manslaughter. You should have got minimum like 20 years for that. 20 years. You only got 5 years. This guy could be out in 2.5 years, and for murdering, you killed 3 people. And he might drive again? It's unbelievable. Right. But hey, if I go downstairs and I get mad at the food truck guy that's stinking up my neighborhood and I punch him in the face, I get charged with a hate crime. I get charged with all kinds of shit. I could go to jail for longer than that, right? And I didn't even kill nobody. So you see how something's really off here? These democratic states are letting illegal aliens come in, and then not only that, they're letting them commit crimes and get away with it almost with impunity. I mean, you'd think that the people would have, at this point, gone and at least not voted for more people like this anymore, right? But they still do. Trump to shrink 2 Utah national monuments by 90%. Utah Governor Spencer Cox praised the move, citing Antiquities Act limits on monument size as coal and uranium deposits open up. So that's what this is really about. The coal and uranium is within this national park that you want access to. So you just shrink the size of the park to make it that, oh, well, that part where the uranium is, yeah, that's not in the national park anymore. Isn't that convenient? Now we can go mine that shit and rip this whole part of the country apart. Not a lot of people live in Utah anyway. It's a strange state. A lot of it's not livable. Most of Utah is not livable. It's very tough land out there. You can get some cheap land in Utah. That's for sure. Can you do anything with it? Not really. It's probably going to be rocky, dry, not the best to grow in. That's why nobody really wanted it until a bunch of Mormons showed up, said, "Hey, we'll take this area over here," and then all of a sudden, a bunch of people started fighting each other for this one area, right? Well, now you know why. It had some valuable shit in the ground too. They just didn't know it back then, right? Mamdani roasted over assertion that higher New York City rapes come from expanded definition, quote unquote. NYPD Comstat data showed a 6.6% increase. Oh, there's 6 again in rape compared to the same time last year. Well, you let all these illegal aliens come in. What do you think's going to happen? The rape stats will go down? By the way, I mean, I see some the way the women, not to blame women how they dress, but I mean, some women here now are dressing so provocatively that it's like, oh my gosh. It seems like yoga pants and are like it's just the standard now. I thought that was just a gym garb. No, it's just yoga pants everywhere. Fuck it. I got a nice body. I'm wearing a yoga top and, like a sports bra and yoga pants everywhere I go. And these young girls think that, oh, I can wear tight Daisy Dukes. And then you're wondering why some older guys like, some older sleazebag is leering at you because your ass cheeks are hanging out and you're 16 years old. You know, DSA calls for abolishing the Constitution. Our goal is to put workers in charge of the government through a new democratic constitution. Well, that's like the opposite. They're trying to make it, oh no, we're not communists. No, like you don't work for us. The worker doesn't work for the for the state. No, no. It doesn't work like that. Israel allots 434 million for West Bank settlements. So you're starting to see these people come over on the West Bank and they start to fuck around in other people's land and try to, who aren't Israeli, and try to fucking intimidate them and stuff, right? Which isn't cool. And now Israel looks like they just put a lot of money to make more settlements. So that's what they're sort of doing. They just destroyed all of Gaza and now they're just going to repurpose it. They're going to make Trump Gaza. They're going to take all the oil and the natural gas, and they're going to make a natural gas hub right there, or a national port, for gas port there, and they're going to take all the money. And the Palestinians, I don't know, they'll get some land somewhere. UA Bowl eyeing Gina Carano for his citizen vigilante too. I say it sounds good. Let's get Gina in there and just get rid of Army Hammer. He didn't like his salary anyway, so fine. Let that one be. And how about you can write a new script real easy, right? How about Gina Carano gets attacked and almost raped by these guys, and she manages to use her jujitsu skills to get out, but then she decides that she's going to go start, masking up every night and going out like a ninja type dude in the street and making sure other women don't get hurt and taking care of these fools who are hurting people. How about that script? I gave it to you free. These guys try to rape Gina, but they don't realize she's a freaking jujitsu black belt. She kicks the shit out of that crew, but they're a rape gang. And now all of a sudden they got their interest in her, and it's a war, right? Boom. There's a script. Boom. There you go. Gave it to you free. That could work. Or she teams up with Army Hammer and they start doing it together, right? Because they have something in common. Her daughter got raped and hurt by these guys, and now she's in on it with Army, and she wants to get justice and she wants vengeance. All U.S. forces to withdraw from Iraq by September the 30th. How long ago did we first go into Iraq? I mean, it was over 20 years ago now, wasn't it? It's like 2003 or 4, right? I remember the big protest about when we went in there. It was a huge protest in New York about we didn't want to go have on the Iraq war. I have a picture of myself from that protest. It's insane. I'm on like a Second Avenue or something, and the whole street's just shut down. There's a bus just stranded in the middle of all these people. I'll try to take a picture of it and show it to you guys. It's hanging in my room. It's just hard to get a good shot of it with the glass and stuff. But I was there, man. It was a major event. There was at least 500,000 people marching that day. It was huge. Did it get us anywhere? No. They still had their 20-year war. And then they went into Afghanistan and made sure the poppy was secure for the next 20. Sold the world plenty of poppy and drugs. And when they got bored with heroin, they just created fentanyl, and then they just started selling that, right? It was more powerful. It was easier to make. Except a lot of more people died, right? New York Times threatened with shareholder suit over Israel Graham Plattner coverage. The Times was also threatened by Trump, apparently, about the Qatar plane that their story that Trump had thought that somebody was gonna make this plane crash. That's why you don't take a plane from a foreign power that you may or may not trust as a gift and have your leader fly on that plane. No. You design your own plane so you know the avionics of it, and it's shielded from other groups that may be able to fuck with it, right? It's got fail safes involved. It's got escape pods and stuff that the other plane didn't have. Mamdani's enraged over shocking ICE murder, but of course he's lying again. Trying to make an illegal alien sound like a citizen by calling them our neighbor is a falsehood, I wrote. These are illegal aliens who aren't supposed to live here at all. If someone tries to run over a police officer, it's considered assault with a deadly weapon, and it's dealt with in kind. which means that you're a danger. You might kill me or my partner. I got to take you out as quickly as I can because you could not just run me over. You might run my partner over, a civilian over who's innocent, who might be nearby. I don't know what your plans are to do with the car. You're increasing speed. You're driving dangerously. After I told you to stop, well, all bets are off. 4 days ago, strong smell of smoke. I wrote in New York from the fires burning in Canada, July 15th. That was 5 days ago now. And then I wrote, are the deaths of Lindsey Graham and most likely Cocaine Mitch the good guys winning, or did they occur naturally? It feels like it's the good thing that those two people would be gone. I mean, right? I don't really care how they're gone as long as they're gone. Is Cocaine Mitch probably most likely gone? I'm assuming he is, and they just keep showing you some picture of him in a bed, like a hospital bed somewhere. But I heard that the wife had fled to back to China, so she was a double agent at best. Americans told to stay indoors as wildfire smoke reaches hazardous level. Yeah, I mean the worst it was like one. The air quality number was 179, and they say 150 is bad, like hazardous. So that's bad. But when the sky turned all orange that other time, it was 450. Can you imagine? That's worse than 9/11. And that wasn't done naturally either. Trying to poison us. Critics cast doubt on Biden's claims he personally wrote his upcoming memoir. I highly doubt it. Even with a ghostwriter, I highly doubt he wrote it. How many chapters are about your time hiding in the basement while someone else ran the White House? Rep. Nancy Mace asked in response to the announcement. Yeah, how many chapters are there about like how many LLCs you and your son have? And where's any money? Do you have a bolt hole in Ukraine? Does anyone have a bolt hole in Ukraine from the United States government? Is that why these people keep, like Graham, kept going over there, taking stuff out of the country that could implicate you? That's why probably Graham doesn't have any money. They're saying it's somewhere else. When you're a political animal like him, all those years, they all have money. What do you think? This guy's gonna live like a pauper? No. He just has his money somewhere and in something that you can't measure it because it's not in a system. What do I mean by that? Well, if somebody gives you a bag full of diamonds or I don't know, some gold Krugerrands, who knows where they came from, right? Some silver bars or whatever. Can those be cataloged? Sometimes, so they can be melted down and made into another bar. Yeah, sure. If you know somebody that has the ability to do it. Pentagon blocks GAO report on F-35 jet program. The F-35 Lightning II has been in production since 2006 and is operated by the US, Japan, South Korea, and many NATO members. This has always been massively over budget, overpriced, and it's a boondoggle. Because if we have anti-gravitic craft, why are we spending billions of dollars to put into some useless plane that can go maybe Mach 2 or 3 when we got something that can go Mach 20? Trump blasts Hochul over data center moratorium. Much of the concerns around data centers have been fears they will contribute to rising energy costs for the local community. No, it's not rising energy. It's that they suck up all the water and they pollute and they need a lot of land for some reason. But as Trump noted, many increasingly opt for producing their own electricity due to the inability of local grids to support their operations. Yeah, but then they should be able to create their own water too. Right, there's now systems you can buy that create their own ice, that creates its own water. That's a machine, right? That has to be plugged into the grid. Some could be solar. China has this machine now. It creates like a lot of ice very quickly. That's going to be a game changer. But again, you need things for that to have access to water. It needs water and electricity to create that, right? Or you need solar and water to create it. So Trump is down with the data centers. Just remember that for the future, right? He's down with it and everything that comes along with it. He's okay with it. He wants it. He wants the data centers to have all your data, to have your DNA data and everything else. every email you've ever sent, everything about you. Then they could do predictive stuff on you, right? Then they could do the pre-crime unit that they want to do. Mexican national runs from ICE, gets hit by semi-truck and dies in Florida. That's another, hey, you run, you die. That's one less person to worry about, unfortunately, in the system, right? I know it's kind of harsh thing to say, but that's the reality of the situation we're in, right? He ran, you got hit by a truck. Okay, one less person to worry about. You should have never been here. If you were back in your country, you'd still be alive, right? Probably. Elon Musk may face prosecution over $1 million voter giveaway in Wisconsin. You can't pay people to vote. The commission voted in a 5-1 decision to refer 2 complaints against Musk to the Brown County District Attorney. So that's a problem. He could be in big trouble for that. It's like people buying votes out in San Francisco or in California, right? With the going down to the homeless areas and saying, "Hey, man, did you vote? Are you Democrat?" Probably most of those people aren't even registered to vote. Some of them, but they'll register you right there to vote Democrat. Give you a couple bucks and a cigarette, right? Why not? DHS blasts judge for ordering the release of Cuban hijacker despite deportation order. Morales was one of the Cuban nationals who hijacked a commuter aircraft departing Nueva Gerona, Cuba on March 19, 2003. That was out of Post Millennial. Former Columbia student agitator Mahmoud Khalil sues the Trump administration and the Heritage Foundation and is claiming there's a Zionist conspiracy against them in violation of the KKK Act. Just forget the fact that you were busted in a car with a bunch of illegal aliens moving them around. Right? Was that him? For decades, the State of Israel and the Zionist organizations in this country that operate on behalf of Israel have understood that their conduct cannot survive honest scrutiny. So this guy's the honest guy who's scrutinizing everything. I'm not saying Israel doesn't have some, power in this country, but this guy is an agent of some other country that's operating here also, right? He's in a problem as well. Revealed World Cup fans are allowed to bring guns into Atlanta fan zone for England Argentina watch party. That's odd. Here's C Reason. C Reason Jana at X.com writes, I predict that this isn't going to age well. Here's from New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani, just defended rape due to the surge of rapes in New York City. He did this by redefining what rape is. A lot of it is from expanding what counts as rape. Never can forget, raping non-Muslim women is legal per Sharia law. That's what she says. This is what Democrats are all for, right? Invited under what they call their Big Tent. Yeah, you want a lot of Muslims to come in? Well, you got to read their laws and what they say, right? Just like people get mad for like certain Jews who follow the Talmud and what that says, right? But that wasn't always the Talmud. As far as I understand, was added later at some point, right? That's not the original Torah teachings. It teaches something different. So, like with anything, all religion could be co-opted, right? Changed. The stories changed. Like the original Bible's not the same as certain books that were written many, many years later. Interpretations of it, right? Translations different, books thrown out of the Bible, different things added by the Church and the Vatican to change the story, to hide certain truths about us and our connection to Source. J.D. Vance accuses Israel of secret plot against him and drops Mossad Epstein bombshell in explosive Joe Rogan interview. That was interesting. Vance, we did mishandle the Epstein files release, he said in the Joe Rogan release also, in the Joe Rogan interview also. Well, a lot of shit got mishandled. You mishandled that because a lot of famous people's names were in there. Tim Walz's baffling response to Trump administration deporting pedophile illegal migrant that he pardoned. He couldn't believe it. His answer was, are we any safer if this guy's deported? Yeah. Yeah, we are. Because anybody that person would have hurt is now not going to get hurt, right? If you leave a pedophile rapist around in your city, it's chances are likely he's going to hurt some other kid. That's why you get rid of him. You put him in prison or you deport him to another country where he's from. With now his face is in the machine as a high level sex predator that's not to be allowed back into the country. Right? Level 3 sex predator, whatever. Do not allow in. And we have now your Prince and your Retina. So that guy can never come back unless he sneaks over the border again, which he might do. Why is Wald so baffled by it? Because he got caught letting a pedophile out of jail. That's why. He should be removed from office just for that reason alone. U.S. Navy blockade stops 2 Iran-linked ships at Hormuz as Tehran threatens to attack other export corridors. It appears Trump is losing the Iran war. He's keeping the strait closed, hurts China and Europe. Is that the plan? Because it also hurts the rest of the world. It hurts us too. Troops over 30 must have their testosterone levels checked annually to ensure leading edge of lethality, Hegseth says. So you have to get your testosterone checked. And what if it's too low? What are you going to give me, like some testosterone now? You going to give me some roids or something? Ramp me up? You going to fire me? Trump admin fires new Seattle U.S. Attorney Roger Rogoff minutes after his swearing in. He is probably going to be a bad one. Got rid of him real quick. New York City's homeless camp chaos puts all of New York and Mamdani's big plans in danger. This could easily be fixed, but they let it continue, I wrote. Yeah, it easily could be fixed in one day. It could be fixed. The cops come with the sanitation trucks. They grab these guys. They arrest a bunch of them. But then they just move them to another spot, usually, is what happens. Mamdani administration makes half-hearted attempt to clean up the embarrassing New York City homeless encampment. He really didn't do much. He didn't clean it up. This guy's a fake. He's not going to do anything for the city. He wants to destroy this place. It's pretty obvious what they did with all the small businesses with COVID. That was the beginning of it all. Shut down all the local businesses, the small restaurants, the delis, the things that make all the neighborhoods have their own flavor, and just get rid of those and just have it all be seamless. Why? In Grubhub. Why? Well, because these guys are going to invade the country, and all they can do is deliver your food on a bike or work in some bullshit, putting up, construction sheds, right? Where you're telling a guy, here, put that pole over there, put that wood over there, right? No skill. All they can do is no skill jobs, and we need a lot of we need everybody ordering all their food all the time from Seamless. It used to be, hey, I want a pizza. I call the pizza guy up on the phone. Hey, Jimmy, how you doing? Let me get a large pie, and 2 Cokes, right? Whatever. Okay, man. What's your address? All right, we'll be there in 35 minutes. And a guy shows up with your pie. You tip that dude, and he leaves, right? That guy worked at the pizza place as the delivery dude who slash guy that worked in the back, right? Usually he's a Mexican or somebody like that, right? Or from a South American nation or whatever, Central American country. And he's probably here illegal then, that guy, right? Now it's different. They got Seamless and then Grubhub, and they made you go through there, which cost a lot extra money. Sometimes I'm paying $8 more for my food because Seamless is charging me a service fee and another fee, and then I got to tip the guy on top of that. So it's really charging me like $12 more extra when I could just go to the pizza place and pick up my pie myself. I can still do that. I can still call the pizza guy and say, hey, I'm going to come pick up that pie in 20 minutes. My name's Jim, right? Whatever. Okay. Can still do that. I guess that's the way you defeat it, right? But most people are lazy and they're not going to want to do it. Not at 10 o'clock at night when they want their Five Guys burger. Charlie Kirk Freedom statue to be unveiled at the center of the universe in New York City. I don't know why I don't even get it. It's in New York. Why are you giving a Charlie Kirk statue in New York? It's just going to get defaced. Some idiot's going to come dump paint on it like the first 2 days, I guarantee you. Because that's how stupid people are in New York. I just don't get why you're putting it in New York. It's kind of a strange place to put the statue of somebody. ICE arrests a record 238 illegal aliens in one day during South Texas enforcement. That's good. Got a lot of illegal aliens in your state. Crips alleged open air crack bazaar near Petco Park crushed As 30 accused gang members and associates face federal charges. So they are starting to bust the Crips and the Bloods. Remember, I told you the Crips and the Bloods are some of the oldest African American gangs in the country. They are the oldest, actually, pretty much, and affiliates, which was originally started like the Black Panthers in a sense. The Black Panthers, when they first started, they weren't a gang, really. They were trying to do community service, believe it or not. And then they started getting into other shit, right? And there was more political, and then it turned darker, and then the FBI started to infiltrate. But if you look at the original incantation of the Crips and these guys, they're just trying to like open up a local place to feed kids and like have an after school center and stuff, so kids aren't in the street, right? That's really what their main. And then it was later that they got into drugs and stuff like that. Future of warfare: creepy drone spins so fast it disappears before your eyes. Could be used to sneak up on the enemy. Yeah, this drone you could barely see it. It spins really fast, and it almost looks invisible. If you can, like, if it's within, if it's 6 feet or more away from you, you wouldn't even see it. It makes that high pitched noise though, but you can sort of see right through it. It's almost like it's so fast. They got to make that noise less, I guess. If that can make that operate noiselessly, that's going to be dangerous weapon. It's like having like one of these things that's like the size of a fly. You know, they can make these things so small now. If something as small as a fly, it's a great thing to use as a spy device, right? House defeats cut to Israel military aid despite Democrat support. So they decided not to cut aid to Israel, and they're going to keep it. I think it's at several $billions per year. Something like maybe 3.3 billion. Although Netanyahu was saying, well, we're going to phase it out. We're doing so much better now. Well, yeah, you've been given billions of dollars by us every year. I would think you'd be doing better. Former Obama White House counsel and Goldman Sachs former top lawyer Catherine Rumler testifies before Congress, says she was used by Jeffrey Epstein. You knew who he was. You were flattered that he was even talking to you, sending you gifts and shit. You were all happy. You were happy to be used. Texas mayor arrested on 5 felony charges: illegal voting, tampering with government records, and fraud. There you go. That's a major deal. That's a major deal. That's a mayor in a Texas town that's got caught doing all kinds of illegal shit. Ukraine's ousting its pro-tech defense minister after just 6 months. Troops fear it's a monumental victory for Russia. Why is this war not ending quicker? Why is it taking so long? And what's really the real result of it? What is people just sending money into this place to launder it before these guys get caught in all these other countries for doing it? Rep. Ilhan Omar introduces a resolution urging the U.S. to join the ICC. Well, the U.S. just said that the International Criminal Court has no jurisdiction within the United States, so they're not going to join. They're doing the opposite of joining. They're saying that the criminal court has no jurisdiction at all, and it doesn't recognize that court's jurisdiction, which means you can't seize somebody in the United States that's wanted by that court. They won't do it, not in the United States. U.S. Justice Department says it cannot provide unredacted Epstein files for New Mexico probe. Why not? What's being redacted? We heard rumors that 2 girls were killed on that property or outside that property and buried somewhere nearby. Swalwell pal Senator Ruben Gallego had sexual relationships with 2 House staffers. I don't know what it is about these guys, but they get in a powerful position, then they get these pages to work for them that's a female, and they end up screwing them. Maybe it should be that if you're a male, you can't have a female page or a female assistant. But then some of these guys are closeted gay males who will just hit on the male anyway. I don't know what the answer is to it, right? But there's many different sexual assault allegations have come out against men in the Congress and Senate to the point where they have a slush fund set up to pay for all the different lawsuits that have been filed against these guys, right? That these guys pay into. It's a literal slush fund. Nick Shirley delivers his testimony at the Senate committee hearing. Yeah, it's simple, right? He says, how did you come across this information? Well, the place is called the Leering Center. That's one. And I figured if you can't even spell the sign right, how good of an organization of teaching the English language are you? And then I found out that it's a bunch of hotel rooms with these businesses inside. That's like you're pretending you have a commercial street address, which you don't really. You have room 11 at the Cisco Motel. That's your business address, which isn't really a business address, right? So these are fake businesses that are allowed to be opened up and then are being given all kinds of COVID and government monies. And it's a big, big scam, right? Because somebody is at the end of that siphoning, is making all the money. And I don't think it's these Somali guys in the rooms. I don't think it's these low end dudes. It's somebody above them that's pulling the strings in the background, right? Democrats are panicking and scrambling to hide something big. Well, there's a bunch of different scams came out. You're paying people for their votes. You never did anything about the GEM system. You never did anything about Dominion. You don't even think there was anything wrong with the 2020 election when there was multiple things found to be wrong. The FBI is now colluding against the president of the United States by not giving him a proper daily briefing and keeping out crucial facts that showed that China was seeking to meddle in the 2020 election by stealing Chinese American identities off of TikTok and then making fake U.S. IDs and driver's licenses with those people's names, and then allowing those, and then voting with those people's, and then making false ballots with those people's names. And if they had 200,000 people's names, or if they had every Chinese American's name, or a lot of Chinese Americans' names, that would be all you'd need. You wouldn't need that many, right, to be able to affect the vote in certain states. Federal agents search home of ex-NYC Sheriff Anthony Miranda. So remember, the sheriff was arrested in New York. The high-ups in the fire department got arrested in New York under Mayor Adams because he fast-tracked the Turkish embassy being built and allowed them to cut through the line of regulation line that the fire department would have to come and sign off on their building being okay and having all their fire department checks on being done, and that the building was signed off by the fire department. That is a process that takes quite some time. They were allowed to cut the line for a fee, and then they ended up building their building without the fire department's okay. They even rushed through the process even more. And it looks like they may have bribed officials here in the United States to do so. And who did Trump just meet with? The Turkish leader, right? Erdogan, the fake Erdogan, who I think is fake. Trump's teleprompter operator is on leave over 100,000 insider betting report, right? So here's a guy that was betting on stuff that's going to happen in the government because he's in on it, right? He knows he's Trump's teleprompter dude. He knows what Trump's going to say before Trump says it. That's a very privileged position to be in, right? Because I know what Trump's going to say before he says it. I can bet on something now that might happen, like the Strait of Hormuz might close again, because Trump's about to do it. And I know he's going to do it an hour or two before, right? Because I'm the guy that types up his teleprompter stuff for him to read. That has to be typed up ahead of time and entered into a system that then prints it up on the screen for the person to read it back, right? He's on leave. He should be under arrest. Mamdani says homeless encampment near Intrepid will be cleared, but he doesn't know when. Okay, well, you could do it any day now. All he's got to do is get 2 or 3 sanitation trucks, maybe 10 or 12 cops, and that's it, right? It's the same thing. You could clear out Canal Street anytime you want. It's not that hard to do it. You just need about 50 or 60 guys and a couple of sanitation trucks. Same thing, some ice guys, and that's it, right? You pincer these guys in. You start moving into the alleys. You pincer them in so if they try to run, they get caught up by the cops coming in the pincer from all sides, and that's it. You grab 100 dudes or whoever's there. You take them to the airport that day and you deport them. And you burn all their shit right on the fucking runway so they can see it. And say, next time you come back, it's the same fucking thing. We got all your faces and all your names. We got your contacts. We know all the shit you do. If you come back next time, we're throwing you in jail for 10 fucking years straight up. Or we'll just send you back. Sooner than later. If you build it, they will come, right? You gotta take the encampment out sooner rather than later, because once word starts getting out, hey, we got an encampment over here, there's hookers here, there's drugs, we got electricity here, people are gonna start coming. They want their tent. Why not? I want to live on right by the Intrepid Museum for free too. Toxic air crisis grips U.S. as 3 major cities rank as most dangerous. I mean, half the country. I was thinking about renting a car and just heading south for a while, like to South Carolina, or I would have had to go all the way down to Virginia, and then even then, you're just waiting for the smoke to get to you. It doesn't. You can't go anywhere. New York's been very bad the past 2 days. I can't open my windows at all. I couldn't open my windows basically for 2 straight days at all, not to get any fresh air. So I'm just in rooms that have the same air with fans going. My AC was on for 2 straight days. I was turning it off, giving it breaks, praying it wouldn't die on me, and it didn't die, thank God. I only got one AC in my apartment in the living room, so. CBS cuts away from Trump's election fraud speech as ABC and NBC refuse to even air it. I thought that was very telling. Because usually when the president says he's having a national speech, everybody televises it. Some of these mainstream news stations are not news. No, none of them are. They're all just a propagandistic front. We knew that because, the CIA said in those meetings in 75, they were also asked certain other questions. Like, do you have any, hey, do you guys happen to have any CIA agents working, like, say, within CBS? Do you have any agents working with any major broadcast news agency or in newspapers? And they're like, yeah, we have some. Sure. Do you have any agents that are writing articles? Yeah, we do. Oh, shit. Okay, well, we didn't know that. Wow. Okay, now we got it. Now, so we realize that some of the people that are, inside of these news agencies aren't even really working for the news agency at all. They work for the government. We get it now. I wonder if they will have to change the World Cup location, right? Because the air levels the other 2 days ago was like, I don't know, man. I wouldn't want to be running around in this shit. Not at 150, 178. No, that's way too polluted. Air levels in New Jersey are in the unhealthy range over 150. That was 2 days ago. Hard to play soccer in the smoke. But then all of a sudden, just like that, a huge rainstorm flooded half the city out, and then all the smoke was gone. Trump's been accused of corruption with new Wall Street Truth Social plan. President Donald Trump's media company is reportedly planning to introduce a paid service offering high-speed access to Truth Social posts, including those that could impact national security and financial markets. Wait a minute, what? So you're giving people like a way where they could pay to hear what you have to say before you say it to the public? What? That doesn't sound legal, dude. That sounds like you're profiting off of the presidential office. The initiative announced Thursday aims to provide Wall Street trading firms and other institutions with real-time news from top Truth Social contributors, enabling them to potentially profit from subsequent market fluctuations in stocks, bonds, and interest rates. I wrote, that sounds like insider information for a price. You ever hear insider trading? That's what this guy's offering. Hey, I'll let you know what I'm going to say before everybody else hears it for a price. I'm going to let you know before any major stuff goes down about, Strait of Hormuz or anything like that so you could profit off of it. And what are you talking about? That's illegal. Critics seize on worrying sign during Trump's shocking election integrity speech. What was the worrying sign? Iran issues grim new order to citizens after U.S. strikes hit power plants as conflict spirals. Yeah, they're saying all kinds of stuff. They're saying they're going to kill Trump. The Iranians now, they're saying they might attack U.S. Power plants inside U.S. New York City woke up to unhealthy air from Canada, so everyone's like, blame Canada. Remember that? This time it actually is Canada's fault. And then the Canadian guy comes back and says, "Well, we'll be there for you guys. We were there when your fires happened." Yeah, but we didn't. You didn't. We didn't start the fires. You didn't start the fire that happened in our country. That happened for another reason, and you helped us. Your fires are burning, and now the smoke is all billowing down into our country, and it's affecting us, not you, as much. Why can't you put your fires out in your area? And why are these fires all just popping up all of a sudden? Are they being caused on purpose? I'm assuming so. Because I've lived in New York over 50 years. We never had a problem in the past with forest fire smoke burning down here ever. I've never smelled it so much before. Right? When you live in a place a very long time and all of a sudden things start happening that never happened before, it makes you start questioning what's really going on. Because you know that people have a weapon that they could just beam this laser beam anywhere in the world and start a fire anytime they want. They don't even need the laser beam, the dew weapon. They could just have a guy go into a remote part of the forest near the U.S. border and start starting little fires. Right? So it will miraculously clear up for the World Cup final on Sunday. I meant in New Jersey. How about that? Not Friday. Sorry. And that was exactly what happened, right? It miraculously cleared up perfectly just in time for that. We had a beautiful sunny day. Some people were saying, why isn't the World Cup played at night? I don't know. I think you'd play it during the day. Isn't soccer mostly played during the day? It's better, easier to play during the day than at night with the lights. Trump's Trump administration live updates. U.S. forces hit military logistics infrastructure and other targets in latest strikes, CENTCOM says. New York Post. Israeli Knesset passes laws favoring Netanyahu allies and then dissolves. So the Knesset uh, came into a meeting and they passed several laws favoring Netanyahu and his allies and then just dissolved. That's highly dubious and suspicious. 75 trucker schools are under investigation for commercial driver's license fraud. This is how they're doing it, right? They're letting these guys pass the test. They don't speak. I mean, how can you pass a CDL test if you can't speak English? I don't know. And read English, which some of these guys can't. You're actually responsible for people's deaths because of what you did by allowing people to pass a test that shouldn't have been allowed to pass it. Too many American lives have been lost in completely avoidable accidents because illegal aliens have been granted commercial driver's licenses to drive trucks and 18-wheelers on American roadways, Mark Wayne Mullen said. That's true. And it's not easy to drive a big truck. Even a smaller box truck's hard to drive. I've driven some vans and some box trucks. I never driven like a full-length 18-wheeler. That's the hardest thing to drive. Besides two 18-wheelers hooked together, which some truckers can do if they're an experienced driver. Those are super hard to drive. They're very hard to maneuver. You have to be careful how you turn. They have 20 different gears if it's a or if it's not automatic. Here's a Irish Captain L4662 at x.com's page. Indian shows up to the gym armed like it's 1600 Punjab and cries racism when asked to leave. Deport this fucking clown and his butter knife back to his shithole country. Fucking sick of these bastards. So this is literally some Sikh dude shows up with like one of those long, like curved Sikh knives, like Arabian knives and stuff, like a dagger, and says it's his ceremonial knife, it's his religious knife, and that he's allowed to come into the gym with it. But the guy's like, I don't give a fuck what your religion is, but this is a private facility, and if I don't want you in here because you're violating one of our rules is which you can't bring in weapons in here, or I find that you're a danger to my members in here, I'll take your membership and chuck it in the garbage so quick it'll make your fucking head spin. And there's nothing you could do about it because you signed the document when you join any gym that they could get rid of you at any time for any fucking reason they want, pretty much. They can trespass you off the property anytime they want. And that's what this guy did. And the cops were there and he made him leave. I don't care what your religion is. Don't come in here with a fucking weapon. And that's what these guys are doing over there. They're coming out in the street with these big weapons and knives and standing around in the parks and trying to intimidate people now. These groups. And it's some of them are Sikh. I'm sorry to say it, but the Sikhs are supposed to be nonviolent, dude. So if you're a Sikh and you're going in these places trying to like intimidate people, that's not how your religion says you should act. Your religion says you should love your brother, right? Not seek to intimidate him with a knife. Jacqueline Toberoff at Jackie T NYC's Twitter writes, "Look who owns New York City streets. Leftist polls handed 340 miles of streets to a monopoly of delivery apps. The price was an army of undocumented deliveristas. DSA wants this in every city. Isn't urban planning, it's a grift." Right? That's what these people are doing. She just stood there and watched in New York City all the different delivery drivers whizzing by. I was watching that too recently. I went out recently. I was down in the East Village going to meet a friend, and I said, "Holy cow!" I was watching this bike lane on First Avenue right off Houston Street, and I was like, "Damn, there's like 10 bikes every 5 seconds are whizzing by here, man." And I realized most of them are these delivery drivers from all these different things, and there's like 5 different ones. There's like Uber Eats, there's Seamless, there's, Grubhub. Those are just three of the big ones, right? Uber Eats, Grubhub, and Seamless, right? Those are the big three. But a lot of those drivers are these illegal aliens. That's why they wanted you using these apps. They didn't want you going to the local deli for your shit. They want you to have fucking Hassan from Pakistan using an illegal Grubhub account, picking up all this shit for you and delivering it to your house. Trump now says he's going to debank a lot of these illegal aliens and not let them use their debit cards here. That's one option. Although they'll just go to cash, but Seamless doesn't allow cash anymore, which is interesting. Seamless used to allow cash payment. They don't allow it anymore. Iran says it hit U.S. command center in Syria as Hormuz fight escalates. DHS finds 278,000 non-citizens on the voter rolls, White House says. The White House said the actual number could be higher. Well, that's a lot of people. That's almost 300,000 dead people on the rolls. And on which state is that? That could just be like New York's voter rolls, or probably even more than that. But these are non-citizens. These are people that should have never been on the voter roll in the first place. Right? They shouldn't have been there. They're illegal. They're not a citizen of the United States. Only a citizen can vote, right? Someone born here or naturalized citizen who's become a citizen, who's gone through the process, which takes many years. Declassified documents show shadow government in action to suppress China threat to elections. Newly released records detail how intelligence officials allegedly worked to conceal the extent of this Chinese interference in the 2020 election. We already went through those documents and showed the actual chat logs. So we like to get the documents and look through them in this site, and that's what we do. And I think that's going to be the title of this show. It's going to be FBI withheld crucial information in presidential daily brief, something like that, right? Of China meddling in presidential daily brief. That's something that should have been top thing in the presidential daily brief, especially a president that's working on getting re-election to office. I would want to know that China is using TikTok, which he approved, right? If he didn't know that information, that's something that would be vital to his decision, wouldn't you think? I would want to know if they're using TikTok to scrape TikTok for any Chinese American's name they could find. And there's a lot of Chinese Americans in this country, and there's a lot of Chinese Americans on TikTok that they could find, and then they make a fake driver's license, and boom, I got you. But then wouldn't there be double votes? Wouldn't a lot of Chinese Americans be coming to the voting station and they'd be like, "Sorry, you voted already"? So there was a whole shadow government within. That's the seventh floor of the FBI that he was supposed to remove, right? His first 4 years that he never removed. You knew Comey was there. You knew that there was people within the FBI that didn't want you in office. Then why didn't you remove those people? Those are the same people that were working against you the whole 4 years. Trump urged Darlene Graham Nordone to run for full term for Lindsey Graham's spot. Newly declassified docs describe China's election influence efforts. We got that again. Epoch Times this time. Russian missiles target Kyiv drone factory hours after Lindsey Graham's visit. That was Skyfall, right? Like the movie. Kyiv drone industry under renewed Russian fire after high-profile U.S. visit to Wartech plant. Yeah, not only that, these guys are going way deep into Russia, hitting Russian oil interests all over the place. This is obviously not, being done by Zelensky. This is some other group doing it within NATO, right? That's figured out, hey, we can hit Russia hard and all their oil stuff. We can destroy their oil, and then nobody could buy their oil anymore like China. That hurts China. This is about, right? Dershowitz backs out of interview with House panel over Epstein report. Dershowitz has been set to appear before the panel as part of its investigation. He doesn't want to report on it because we already know he got massages from some of these women and probably sexual favors from them. Homeland Security Chief Mullen suggests feds won't cover election costs for states that don't reform. Mullen made the remarks during a Friday press conference that followed President Donald Trump's primetime address, in which he announced the declassification of documents outlining election integrity failures. That's a big deal. DHS issues funding warning to states that don't purge voter rolls. Double confirmation. Around 250,000 non-citizens are found in New Jersey, California, Nevada, and Pennsylvania. What about New York? Add New York to that, and it's probably 500,000 or more, probably 1 million. Right? That's enough to sway any election in those states easily. National Guard to remain deployed in D.C. through Inauguration Day 2029, which means that the National Guard is going to be in Washington, D.C. for the remainder of Trump's term. That's 3 more years. Who's paying for that? You are. The deployment began when President Trump last summer signed the executive order declaring a crime emergency in D.C. So now these guys are there, it looks like, almost permanently, at least till 2029. That's a long time. VP Vance says the U.S. will not put boots on the ground in Iran. We're not in that business anymore. You can't. You don't have enough boots to do it, to take the country. It's going to be another Iraq. The VP said that if there's going to be a regime change in Iran, then it would have to come from the Iranian people, then, not outside forces. Yeah, but the Iranian people tried, and they killed about 50,000 of them. They need some outside help. They obviously can't do it on their own. If they could do it on their own, they would have done it by now. Right. Mondani launches taxpayer-funded Parents' Night Out babysitting program. Are you kidding me? We're launching New York City's first ever Parents' Night Out so that parents can get a little time on their own to catch a movie, run errands, or go on a date. And who's watching my fucking kid? Some city employee that I don't know? Are you fucking kidding me? No thanks, man. If I need a babysitter, I'll find one. I don't need you to babysit my child. I need you to run my city and make it affordable and livable for people, so I don't have to go on welfare to feed my kids. How about that? How about finding me a place that has an affordable rent? How about that? How about you stop polluting my city with food carts and food trucks every other block that you made more available now, permits for? TikTok clubber stomps on anti-Israel protesters at New York City rave. So these protesters decided to go to a rave and then lie down on the dance floor and protest in like Free Palestine. And people just got sick of it. They're like, fuck it, I'm just going to dance on you. How about that? You're in the fucking way. You decided to lay down on the dance floor. It's not my fault if I step on you. Sorry. I was checking out Ari at Home's I Feel It IRL stream. Pretty good show. Again, another great show. Here's an opinion piece. Why hasn't Mahmoud Khalil been deported yet? I wrote, the Muslim infiltration of New York is becoming rather obvious. Why is Mahmoud Khalil still here? He should have been deported. Gavin Newsom to release long-awaited tax returns by the end of July. Where's your tax returns? It took a bunch of uh, it took a bunch of forensic accountants this long to hide all this shit that you did, right? They try to clean this shit up. Mamdani in active conversation about whether he can arrest Benjamin Netanyahu when Israel PM visits New York. Well, you can't, and he's not going to. I don't think so. Whatever. You're just trying to look like you got some chops in the game, right? You're trying to keep yourself in the conversation. Meanwhile, Netanyahu's like, hey, don't you support Hamas? Isn't your wife like a Hamas supporter? It sounds like you are. Illegal drug peddlers turned New York City neighborhood into an open air prescription pill market. So now in parts of Upper Manhattan in the Bronx, they got people just on the streets selling drugs like, from, I don't know, Mexico, I guess. But they're selling stuff like amoxicillin and stuff like that, like that's like people can't get easily, right? That's prescription level stuff. And they're selling it, which is illegal, right? Of course. I wonder, is they going to stop these people or is that going to be an open air pill market up there now? You're turning my city into a second world city, right? That's what these people do when they come in. They start just setting up shop everywhere on the sidewalk and just everywhere can be a store, right? Anybody can be a store owner now. Well, wait a minute. I pay rent for a store here. I want to have my sidewalk clear. I need my patrons who come into my business to have a clear way that they can get into my store. They can pull up at the front and park their car. I don't want you there with your pills and stuff selling crap on the corner on the side right outside my store. New York School is now going to introduce its first humanoid robot. I don't think that's a good idea. Although it could be if there's like a school shooter, right? That then you could make it into RoboCop and then they could kill the shooter, maybe. What if it malfunctions though, right? But it could be, in a sense, it could protect the children, right? In a sense, it could go in the hall and maybe the shooter would shoot the robot and it wouldn't shoot the kids, and then the robot could disable them somehow, right? We've never seen that happen so far. It vows Sally will never replace the teachers. I don't think we need a robot in the class with the kids. That's a big mistake I wrote because you're getting kids used to robots early. Illegal aliens to lose access to American banking services under Trump administration and move to encourage self-deportation. The Treasury Department just issued new guidance to financial institutions and to banks. That could be one way that they do it, right? Because Seamless in these apps, they don't run on cash. You can't use cash, I don't think, in them. I know in Seamless made it so you can't. Is that one way to make it so these guys can't support themselves here anymore? They won't be able to use a debit card here. You got to make it not easy for these people to work here and stay here. Circuit Court approves USPS change with big mail-in ballot implications. So they're changing the mail-in ballots and how they're set up. The secret reason why Fox News is so silent about Trump's election fraud speech? Yeah, why are they so silent? Trump has a brilliant way to make Canada pay for the wildfire fallout. Yeah, say it's if you don't fix your forest, we'll just start charging you because this doesn't happen the other way around too much. Why are your forests on fire all of a sudden? Is someone setting them on fire? I'm assuming so. But then, of course, the weather, the way the wind moves it to the city, and then all of a sudden that stops is odd to me. That seems like you're somehow making that happen on purpose. Venezuela had plans to manipulate voting machines, raising alarm in the U.S. Intel circles back in 2020. Well, that's what all these people kept coming out, like Sidney Powell were saying. Remember, they kept saying, "Oh yeah, it's Venezuela, these countries. We engineered the machines for them to help Maduro get in, or to help the other guy in Brazil get in, whatever." It was the U.S. that did it, and we've rigged this. We've rigged the votes, and they rigged the votes in like 60 or 70 other countries, not just there, right? It was also the source code for Seidel was also had a backdoor in it, right? And a lot of countries use Seidel source code. We showed you that a hacker showed that Seidel source code has a backdoor that would allow a hacker in that could change vote totals and then leave the system without being noticed, right? Without leaving a trace, which is like the perfect way to rig the system. President Trump says the intel collected from 2004 to 2020 shows why American voting systems need to be better secured. But you knew this. Yeah, you knew it when you first came in, you knew it. So why didn't you do anything about it your first 4 years? You see how that doesn't make any sense? And now you're bringing it up 6 years after the 2020 election, when the midterms are up for grabs, when you should have dealt with this back in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. Netanyahu postpones U.S. trip after failing to get Trump meeting to attend Graham funeral, reports. So I don't think he's going to be at the Graham funeral. Graham, who was a major supporter of Israel, died unexpectedly last week at the age of 71 years old. His office said the senator's funerals will take place on July 28th in Washington, D.C., and July 29th in South Carolina. So he's going to have two funerals. President Trump will join FIFA chief to crown the World Cup. He crowned the World Cup champs. The smoke cleared just in time, I wrote. How fortunate, right? Perfect timing. Mike Gill has challenged Juan O'Savin or Wayne Willott and Nino Rodriguez to a debate. I would love to see that. I bet you $5 that Wayne Willott does not debate Juan O'Savin. He won't debate Mike Gill about anything because he knows that Mike Gill will rip him apart. Mike Gill was... These guys tried to work with Mike Gill. They tried to pull him into their network, and they soon realized that Mike Gill was not going to work with their network and work with them, especially if there's not going to disseminate any truth. What does Mike Gill's real information show? Well, that's the question, right? It shows that there was networks within the United States that were money laundering, that were moving drugs, that were money laundering using large businesses, that were, in fact, running rehab centers while selling drugs to the public as well. And how those fentanyl networks were set up in the United States weren't just from outside cartels doing it. It was cartels inside the United States that's doing it. That's what Gill was trying to show within New Hampshire, where they were laundering uh, millions upon tens and upon hundreds of millions of dollars was being laundered in the state. So will Wayne Willott, aka Juan O'Savin, and Nino Rodriguez debate Mike Gill on an open, on an open podcast? I doubt it. I'd love to see it if they do. Manosphere influencers Andrew and Tristan Tate were arrested on rape and sex trafficking charges in Florida. So now all of a sudden the Tate brothers are being charged with like 6 or 7 other or 5 other rape charges and all kinds of other charges now. And this is in the UK. And I said a long time back that there's something suspicious about these guys. They're doing something that I can't figure out what, but it doesn't smell good. Like this big compound that they have in Romania. Romania is a country where there's, the rules that you can kind of pay your way around certain shit. It's a human trafficking hub for sure. A lot of very, very beautiful women in Romania. It's like certain countries like Estonia, Russia have some of the most gorgeous women you've ever seen in your life. Not sure what it is about the genetics or something, but just, of course, there's not every woman is gorgeous, but you know what I mean. When they are gorgeous in these countries, they are drop dead gorgeous. I've come across some Russian and Ukrainian and Estonian women here in the city that are you're just like, wow, like, whew, it's hard to even look at you. So the Tate brothers are under arrest for more rape charges and other charges. U.S. ambassador to UN slaps down Zoran Mamdani's threat to have Benjamin Netanyahu arrested when the Israeli PM visits. Yeah, you can't do that. He has diplomatic immunity, it's called. Right? You need to read the laws of the state and the country that you live in before you start running your mouth trying to look like you're going to do something. Tulsi Gabbard's brother accused of trying to lure children to a Hawaii hotel room with cash and gum. So now look, it looks like Tulsi Gabbard's brother is a pedophile. Is that why she really stepped down? Was that about to come out? Has he done something else before? Most times when you're a pedophile like this, that's not the first time something happened, right? Maybe it was overlooked the last time, but that's interesting. So it looks like Tulsi Gabbard's brother is an alleged pedophile. Body found at home owned by squad rep Ayanna Presley's husband. So Ayanna Presley owns this house, right, that she got through dubious means at best. And now it turns out there's a body in one of the houses, there's a corpse in one of your homes, which triggers all kinds of investigations. I'm assuming she's in more trouble. Opinion piece, dark day for the UK as Andy Burnham doubles down on disaster. So I don't, the feeling I get is that this is another one of the same. It's unfortunate to say it, but I hope I'm wrong. But I mean, look at if you've had 9 out of the last 10 years, you've had, you know, you've had 9 guys in here already, and not one of these guys can do anything about the problem you have. What does that tell you? They're all in on it. Terrifying hazmat fears after highly toxic substance found in several SoCal locations. So somehow they found mercury all over this area, which is odd. Why would you be finding mercury? It's not coming out of the ground, it's coming from someplace. So they were finding mercury. Britney Spears' son Jaden James, 19, addresses long-standing rumor that his mom was cloned. Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, if you've heard about the cloning centers and some of the stuff that they do there, that's what they do. They make a clone of some really hot star and then they just keep raping it over and over again. Because it's not her, right? I mean, it is her. But the only problem is that when somebody clones you, I think you can feel that attachment somehow, right? Because it's you. It's another version of you out there. And if there's another version of me that I don't know exists and it's being sexually assaulted for years on end and then killed, and then you just make a new one, it's Westworld, baby. That's what I'm telling you. That's what these people are fucking doing. That's why these stars look so fucking hot, because they're genetically engineering them all. That's why so many of them look dissimilar to each other, because they're from the same DNA stock, a lot of them. The same similarities, right? Too many of these stars look alike, like super close to another star, right? You ever seen that? That's not. That's because they're cloning different people and fucking making up people as they go, right? How can I make the hottest woman with the biggest tits, with the most perfect body? You can see it. You never saw women that looked like this like 30, 40, 50 years ago. Something's changed, right? Especially in Hollywood. 13 million pounds of trash and hazardous waste was removed from MacArthur Park. This is in California. So, I mean, you had so many homeless living in there that they were just shitting and pissing all over them. The garbage that they were creating. I mean, they just destroyed this place. That there was millions of pounds of trash that was generated from that. You can never let that park get like that again. That was a complete disgrace. Mamdani administration makes cash for syringes pilot program permanent. So now if you're a junkie and you want to just turn in your syringes, you can get money. Isn't this great? Now I can go get more drugs. It's fucking beautiful, man. And then you're giving me more paraphernalia for free to do those drugs, so I don't even have to go find needles. It's great. And you're giving me a place to shoot up and do my drugs, where I don't have to worry about the cops busting me. This is fucking beautiful. Isn't that great? What a great state. Was the FIFA semifinal ball magnetized? Here's Mbappe inspecting the ball. Let me see if this Instagram will play. They changed the ball for the semifinal, right? Remember? Why'd they do that? Here's Mbappe looking. Here's the magnetic control of the ball. This is Akura. Remote magnetic control. Mbappe already knew something was strange with the ball.
Something very, very strange about the balls used during the semifinal. He spotted it before anyone else, but nobody listened to him. Take a close look at how he inspects the ball. He realized there was something suspicious inside it, and the evidence is right here. Now look close. The player takes the shot, the ball follows a normal trajectory, and then, all of a sudden,
Is that AI?
it completely changes direction in midair before flying into the top corner. There's no way that's natural. But it gets even crazier. Now here's the ultimate proof. The player makes a pass directly to Kylian Mbappe, and watch how the ball behaves. It glides perfectly along the line all by itself, as if it's being guided, almost like there's a magnet hidden beneath the pitch pulling it straight to his feet. So, are these balls equipped with chips that allow them to be controlled remotely? Has FIFA planned everything from the very beginning? Let me know what you think in the comments, because at this point, there are just too many coincidences. Watch this.
All right, that's Akura on Instagram. I just wanted to play that clip because I think there's something going on with the ball, right? They changed the ball a while back, and now you can see there's a section of the ball comes out. It has a chip inside or whatever. Why is Mbappe looking at the ball with the semifinal ball like something's wrong with it, right? Memos reveal FBI faced roadblocks to prosecute possible 2020 Michigan voter registration fraud. The FBI collected witness interviews alleging voter registration fraud in Michigan in 2020. Newly disclosed documents show the case was delayed and ultimately killed by the Biden administration. Yeah, I mean, some of this stuff, I guess, is coming out now. I get it. The Biden administration wasn't going to look into anything. But you knew a lot of this information well before 2020, right? You had seen stuff go on in the 2016 election. It wasn't where the votes were going down and stuff like that, even though you won, right? Memos reveal FBI faced roadblocks to prosecute. Forget about helping the U.S. Wait, was that? Sorry. Oh, I doubled this up, so sorry, I think. Memos reveal FBI face rope. This was a double about the fires, and I mixed up the article. Sorry. Let me just change that. It was about Canada saying they would help the U.S. put our fires out, that they've helped us. That was in response to Trump criticizing them. But my point was, hey, Canada, just put your own fires out. Don't worry about helping us put ours out. Put yours out. Yours are the ones that are hurting us the most, that are affecting the most people. After birthplace citizenship ruling, China won't need hackers to meddle in U.S. elections. Yeah, they can just send over a bunch of women that are pregnant, have American citizens, and tell them how to vote, right? Plus all the other illegal aliens, Chinese that are here that snuck in, that they can also tell some of them how to vote, right? And they can affect votes in cities like New York that have low voter turnout. U.S. universities received $300 million from sanctioned Chinese entities. That's a lot of money. Remember when that one guy was going all over the place? Not Jolo, but there was another guy uh, that was like, who was the guy that had the back? He was the guy that had that he was the guy that was working in the Chinese embassy in New York. He was a big time dude, and then he started going around and visiting the different uh, schools all over the place. I remember I was watching him, and he went to a bunch of different U.S. colleges and gave them monies from the Chinese government. And then we realized that he was the same guy that attended the Lantern Festival in Staten Island. That was where what's her name's sister worked at that Lantern Festival, right? That was the Chinese connection to Georgia, where uh, the person working under the was a deputy governor, I guess, or was it something like that? Her sister was Wang Ping. Had met Wang Ping, right? Remember Wang Ping? Wang Ping, Beijing University. Wait, where was he? Was it this Wang Ping? Wang Ping. Let's see if that comes up. Feinstein Institutes for Medical Research. Is chief scientific officer of the Feinstein Institutes. No, that's not it. I gotta find his name if I have him. I'm researching it right. He worked for China. He worked in the New York. He was a big time guy. He went attended that Lantern Festival in New York, um, where what's his name? I'm sorry, I'm sort of blanking on this person, but it was somebody, the person right under the what was the guy's name who was giving Trump all that trouble in Georgia? And Trump asked him, "Hey, can you find me the votes?" Right? The person working right under him, her sister, was connected to Wang Ping and had met him at the Chinese Lantern Festival. I had shown that connection. So yeah, a lot of people. This guy was going and visiting a lot of different colleges before the 2016 election and before the 2020 election, also, and giving monies, right, so that they would have more pro-China kind of stuff being taught in the schools and more Chinese students allowed. Trump just allowed a lot of Chinese students to come here. Auschwitz survivor, 96 years old, is in New York City. He's forced to hide his Star of David as he gives Dems history lesson on anti-Semitism. This is Mamdani's New York. You know what a lot of people don't realize is that during the World War II, or the lead up to World War II, uh, when the Nazis were beginning to take over Europe in large swaths, many Jews fled and tried to come to the United States, and most of those Jews were not allowed in. And Canada also did not allow them. This is in the 30s, late 30s, right? They didn't want Jews to come to the United States, and neither did Canada. So just so you know, because now we're letting all these people in who are fleeing political persecution and stuff. Well, here was people that were fleeing people that were putting them in camps and killing them. And they said, no, you can't come here. You got to go back to Germany where you're facing certain death, or your country of origin where you're facing death from the Nazis invading. Good luck. And now, all these years later, to have to deal with some people that have been shipped into your city who are just agitators, who are trying to agitate and bother Jews and rile things up, are here, and you got to deal with these idiots. What a shame. What a just complete what a complete utter shame it is that this person is doing, that people are doing this, man. Iran's mouthpiece wants a U.S. invasion, and his own people would pay this thing. Okay, come on down. Good luck, man. Got a lot of gun owners here, so good luck with that. We'll see you out there. We'll see you out there on the open plains where there's no cover. Well, we'll see you there. I'll see you in Nebraska, baby. Right? So, friends, I hope you're doing well, working out, stretching. It's been another long show. There's a lot of information coming out, much of which is trying to achieve a certain uh, result from the public, which isn't going to work anymore, right? People are realizing what's going on. A group of people have been put in place that have tried to destabilize this country for a very long time. The way they were going to do that, and unfortunately, China's involved in that in a large way. There's no way that you can say they aren't, with all the evidence out there right, that shows that they are. Right? That we have the solar winds hacked. We've been hacked multiple times by these players. There's all these Chinese women coming here having children, having anchor babies here. We now know that the FBI was not telling the president all of the information in his daily brief, especially about anything having to do with election meddling. Were purposefully keeping that information out of the president's daily brief, which they should have been putting in there, right? It shows that the FBI didn't do their job. The FBI made sure that they obfuscated certain information from the record so that it wouldn't be shown, that because they wanted Joe Biden to win the 2020 election. My question is, why didn't Trump do anything about this earlier? He knew about all these things. Some of them predated his administration and predated even Obama, right? There were problems with the voting machines ever since the hanging Chad problem of the 2000 election. So it's not like these people didn't know that these machines were hackable. You knew after the 2000 election that they were hackable, because HBO did the special documentary about how easily those machines were hackable. And then you just put in a new system that was even more hackable, that had even more backdoors in it, that was even easier to fuck up, right? And then you allowed other countries to use that, as well as the CITL source code, to make sure that only governments that were going to toe the line were going to get in power, and no government that was going to help the people would ever be elected, even if the people voted for them, because their election processes were completely tainted from the get-go. So we have to come to grips with the fact that all the elections of the past 25 years, at least, if not more, have been compromised all over the world. And how do you fix that? All the damage that was done, all the laws that were put in place, how do you even try to fix that and come to some place where you're going to have a good society with good morals? You have to first get rid of all these politicians, every single one, Trump included, and remove them from power and start over, right? Because the system that you have in place is compromised. The voting system that you have in place is compromised. The way that you handle your votes in your country is compromised. It's all compromised. It all has to be thrown in the garbage and start over. And there's nobody coming out saying that that's what needs to be done. No, they're still using the same system. In fact, they had held multiple elections using the same tainted system that they knew was tainted. So the fact that now Trump is coming out saying, hey, this whole thing is tainted, they withheld information, you knew that already. Because you had said that you weren't even using the Daily Brief anymore because you were getting your information from your own sources. So you must have known all this information then. And if you did, why didn't you do anything to change the voting system in 2020 when you had 4 years to put in a new system? So that's what my take on things, friends. I hope you're doing well, working out, stretching, staying in your sense of space. We still haven't heard the real problem and all the bad stuff that the government did with MK Ultra because they were kidnapping American citizens. That's the other part of it. They were using people within the prison system unknowingly and using them in programs too, giving them LSD without their knowledge, using drugs on them, sleep deprivation, and other things on them, and other things, right? To try to see how they could control human beings and what they think. So, friends, I hope you're well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space. I don't know where we go from here. It's like all this information's laying out there, but we're still dealing with the same people in power, and they're just like, hey, sorry about that. What's going to happen with all these crooked politicians? How do we get rid of them all? We can't leave some of them in the Democrat and Republican parties and then just move on and go on as things as normal. We can't do that. We have to implement a completely new political system and ideology in the world. And I don't know how we do that with the state of things as they are now. With the amount of Muslims that have been moved into all these countries in Europe, that all has to go back before things can move forward, right? We have to go back to the way things were in terms of these countries that have been inundated with these people. They all have to be removed so these countries can go forward as the way they would have gone forward normally without being inundated with Muslim military age men. And until that happens, and until women have stopped being raped and abused in these countries because these men are being imported in, and fighting has stopped because of all these Muslim men coming in that are robbing and uh, messing up these little towns and places, that we can't move forward as a species. A lot of things have to be undone that have been done, and nobody's doing that. I don't see NATO doing it. I don't see Trump doing it. And so that's where we stand, friends. It's like a fake guy came in and said, hey, I'll save you. I'll save you. You're drowning, right? And then just as he's about to save you, he takes the ring, the flotation device away from you and pushes you out into the deeper water. That's what they're doing. And then it's too late. Then you realize they fucked you and it's too late, right? So that's my take on it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Trump will come out with the med beds in a month from now and I'll be on here eating crow. I hope I am. I'll be the first one to say I'm so happy if he does do that, right? And I'll say I was wrong. But my intuition has been right more than it's been wrong, and I'm usually right more than I'm wrong. I don't think Trump's doing the right thing. I think multiples of Trump have been walking around, which leads me to believe the real one's gone. If the real one was hiding in the mountain, he would have told you by now, hey, I'm hiding in the mountain. I'll come out later. Whoever's out there now ain't me. He never said that, right? Which is a big problem for me. And I've told you all my other problems that I have with things. And so we're here where we are. So, friends, I'm going to let you go for now. I hope you're doing well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space. I'm tired. I'm finding myself more and more tired about talking about these people. I think the less attention we give these people, the less power they will have over us, right? We can create the world we want together. We just got to come together and figure out what that world is and how it looks, right? And when enough people agree on what that world is, we'll make it. We'll create it for ourselves. And we'll create it fast. So, friends, I hope you're well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space. This is your friend in New York, Ash, NPNP News, signing off for now.